Otakura Koichi was a 15-year-old who kept his otaku interests a secret. After being teased in middle school, he decided to hide his hobbies and blend in as a typical, unremarkable high school student with glasses. One day, while browsing his phone, he saw that new merchandise from a series he loved had just been released. He couldn't wait to get home and give it a perfect paint job. He was so absorbed in his phone that he didn't notice his classmate Narumi calling out to him. It wasn't until now that he realized she had called him Otaku-kun. Narumi Yuwa was the girl who sat diagonally behind him. It had only been 2 weeks since the entrance ceremony, so it was strange for her to label someone an otaku without even talking to them first. Koichi tried to correct her, explaining that just because his last name was Otakura didn't mean he was an otaku. But Narumi pointed out that he had been the one drawing a picture of a girl during class today. Koichi felt embarrassed to be caught doing something like that. He regretted not considering the diagonal view, even though he had been careful to avoid being seen from the side or by the teacher at the podium. He awkwardly explained that he assumed she would be too busy fiddling with her phone or sleeping to notice. Wanting to change the subject, he asked if she needed something. Narumi grinned and showed off her nails, asking if they weren't totally crazy. Koichi was confused, not really understanding what she meant by totally crazy. Her nails were messy and smudged, and he wasn't sure how to react. He wondered if someone who casually called a stranger an otaku should really be calling something else totally crazy. Despite the confusion, he figured Narumi didn't mean any harm by calling him an otaku. Still, he couldn't make sense of her nail design. It was just messy and weird to him. He didn't want to say anything negative, but also didn't want to lie, so he replied that her nails had a very unique design. To his surprise, she agreed and explained that she was trying to recreate a design she saw on her phone, but it didn't turn out as expected. She moved closer to show him the nails she was trying to imitate. While he was taken aback by how close she got, he was even more surprised by the original nails. They sparkled and shimmered as the angle changed. Narumi told him she had watched a few tutorial videos and tried to replicate the design herself, but for some reason it came out completely different. Still, she thought people might say hers looked good too, so she planned to ask everyone what they thought. Koichi then understood why she had approached him in the first place. He was relieved he hadn't mentioned that her nails looked like a witch's brew. As he tried to wrap up their conversation, Narumi noticed that he was good at drawing and asked if he could help her with her nails. He attempted to explain that drawing and painting nails were two different skills, but she persisted, even begging him to help. When she leaned in to plead, he couldn't help but sneak a glance at her cleavage, finding the view appealing. Pushing that aside, he realized that painting plastic models with lacquer paint was one of his hobbies, and nail polish was somewhat similar to lacquer paint. As Narumi started to lose hope, Koichi told her he would paint her nails. Overjoyed, she squeezed his hands in excitement and praised him. In return, he asked her not to tell anyone that he drew pictures in class, and she promised to keep his secret. With that settled, Narumi began peeling off her nails. At first, Koichi was horrified, thinking she was removing her actual nails, but she quickly explained that she was just peeling off the fake ones. It made sense to him that you could apply and remove them like that. She then offered to send him the picture of the design she wanted so he wouldn't forget. When she asked for his social media accounts, Koichi admitted he didn't use any. Fortunately, he had a Line account, so they connected through that app. Koichi was pretty excited. Even though 2 weeks had passed since school started, he hadn't exchanged contact info with any classmates yet, and now he had this girl's number. When he got home, he sat down to do some research. His first task was to remove the existing polish and residue from the fake nails. He was shocked by the price of nail polish remover, so he decided to try paint thinner instead. He wet a tissue with it and started rubbing off the polish. After 30 minutes, he finally got them clean, which took longer than expected. He reminded himself that applying too many layers would make removal much harder next time. Now, the next step was to paint the nails with plastic paint, but he realized that once he applied the paint, it wouldn't be possible to peel it off. He wondered if Narumi was okay with that, so he decided to text her to check directly. He didn't seem to like the first text he wrote, so he tried to make it sound more friendly, but that one made him sound really chummy and she might tell him not to act so familiar. He was pretty indecisive about texting her, and at this rate, it would take him all night. He didn't even have any female friends, let alone anyone who was a girl. He had no idea how to talk to girls. He started checking the mangas he read to see some kind of scene he could reference. While he was flipping through the pages, his phone started ringing. It was Narumi, asking him if he was up. She also sent him a text that said she just got out of the bath with a cute selfie photo attached to it. Koichi couldn't help but scream. It was his first time getting a cute photo from a girl and his heart was about to explode. He didn't know what to do, and he needed to send a quick answer because she saw that he viewed the photo. He immediately sent her a response, saying that he was awake and asking if it would be alright if the paint never came off from the fake nails. He felt like an idiot for writing a boring reply. Narumi responded that it would be perfect if the paint would never come off. Knowing that she was fine with it, he told her that he would get started on it. She asked how long it would take, and he said that he hadn't figured that out yet. He did have a dryer for plastic models there, so it shouldn't take very long to dry them. He responded to her that he could have it done tomorrow. She started praising him again and sent him lots of cute stickers. If she was getting this excited over this, he decided that he should get going on it right away. He told her that he was going to start now and he might be slow to reply. He started working on the nails carefully while Narumi was thinking about him. The next day he went to school pretty sleepy because he was still up all night working on the nails. He arrived at school earlier than usual, expecting it to be nearly empty. To his surprise, he found Narumi in the classroom. They were both taken aback by each other's early arrival. When Narumi commented on his early presence, he casually mentioned that he had woken up early. In reality, he had woken up early to show Narumi his new nails, and she had also woke up early to see them. While taking the nails out of his pocket, he stated that he was kind of proud of how those turned out. He showed her and asked how they looked. Narumi was taken aback by the nails because they were super cute. She wanted to put them on immediately. While Narumi was looking for the double-sided nail tabs in his bag, he realized that, seeing how happy it was making her, Koichi confirmed that the nail-making was a success. When she finally put them on, she was so happy and asked his opinion. He said that they were awesome indeed. She wanted to take a photo to commemorate, together by the window. He didn't even realize how she took the photo in less than a second. While she was choosing a filter to take more photos, Koichi realized that she was so soft and thought he was going to die. Narumi noticed that people were coming in now and showed them to him. It was about the time when most students arrived at school. Narumi's girlfriend from another class arrived and she wanted to go and say hi to her. He told her to not mind him. When she left, Koichi felt sleepy again now that his tension was gone. Suddenly, he got a text message from Narumi. It was the photo she took and she was telling him that he was really nice. With that, the secret relationship between Otakura Koichi and Narumi Yua began from that moment, but it was actually not that secret because Narumi immediately told everyone that he made them for her. Since that time Koichi had done the fake nails for her, Narumi and he had a few more chances to talk. But she was the girl at the center of everyone's attention, and seeing as he was just a regular boy, it wasn't like he could say they were especially close. Or so he thought. One day Narumi came to him and stated that there was something she wanted to ask him, something dead serious. She said that all day she had been waiting to find him by himself after school while blushing. Seeing her shy face, he thought she was going to make a love confession. His heart started bouncing like crazy, but all she wanted to do was show him the magazine's hairstyles. She wondered his opinion, so he responded that they were pretty good. He was acting like he was interested in hairstyles because he had read on the internet that it was important to talk to girls the same way they talked. She said that she had got a request. She wanted to do her hair like this too, so she wondered if he would like to help her. Koichi was shocked, but seeing her blushed cheeks and shy face, he couldn't help but promise to pour his heart and soul into it. He started to flip through the pages and found one that looked like the hairstyle of the heroine in this season's top anime. It was called Half Up. Narumi wasn't good at doing this thing called kururinpa, which meant making a ponytail then splitting the top in half and wrapping the tail through. Koichi noticed that the model in this had her hair curled, but she didn't curl hers. She said that it was because her hair was fine. Even if she curls it, it goes back pretty fast, and on top of that, since it was bleached, it breaks easily. Otakura used to braid his sister's hair a long time ago, so he thought he might be able to do it somehow. He thought there had to be some way to curl her long, fine hair without damaging it. Narumi started to worry that they wouldn't be able to do it, but he didn't give up and started searching on the internet. He showed her something and suggested using that. He wanted to buy one right now, which surprised her, because she didn't expect him to do it today. He said that they should strike while the iron's hot. Before they left the school, Narumi wanted to inform her other friend from another class that she was heading out first. She told him to wait for her at the school's gate. While Otakura was waiting, Narumi apologized to her friend Riko that she ended up making plans to go shopping with Otaku. Riko asked if she meant Otakura by saying otaku. She said that that guy was a wuss and he totally seemed like an actual otaku. She started insulting him, saying that he clashed with her so badly that it was gross. Kuchi overheard everything she said and felt super awkward to have to walk out in front of them. But if he doesn't go through there, he can't get to the gate. He couldn't stop himself from thinking about how she found him gross. It made sense they would think of him like that as he was actually an otaku. He started to think about the possibility that he might just be annoying to Narumi if he was with her. He decided that it would be better to get out of there first. He started messaging her that something came up and he had to head home. But he stopped when Narumi told Riko that she was being weird. She said that he didn't do anything wrong and there was no reason to call him gross out of nowhere. Riko didn't expect her to defend Otakura and started flinching. She got embarrassed and ran away. When their eyes met, she glared at him with pure hate and left the school. Otakura felt pretty intimidated by being glared at by a girl he didn't know. Narumi started walking away. He realized that it would have been a lot easier for her to just talk it out with her female friends. Despite that, she got angry for his sake even though he was someone who wasn't really that close to her at all. It was obvious that he clashed with Narumi. When he pulled it together and went to the school gate, Narumi greeted him like nothing happened. She wanted to get going. As Koichi made his way to the spot Narumi had found in the metro, he was really happy to see her acting like herself. However, that didn't change the fact that she had fought with her friend because of him. Aware of this, Koichi decided to make it his goal to be someone useful to Narumi. Even Narumi noticed his determination. When they arrived, Narumi couldn't help but scream because she loved this wig shop. Otakura's idea was to use extensions to make the style work. This way, Narumi's hair wouldn't be damaged and they could curl it. He was super nervous about feeling out of place before they came in there, but he felt super nervous about feelings out of place before they came in there. But he was calmer if he thought of it as a doll accessory store or the cosplay section at Animate. Animate was a nationwide chain store featuring anime goods and comics. They found the hairline extensions and quickly found the ones that were the same as her color. She picked the ones that were suitable for her hair, but Otakura stated that they weren't limited to that. Although it was true that using the same hair color wouldn't look bad, he suggested they get creative with the extensions and pick something with color gradations she wouldn't normally be able to have. For example, he picked pink hair and stated that by combining the color and hairstyle they could achieve a truly splendid impression. On the other hand, by using white they could create a striking note, while at the same time the entire impression was more relaxed. Furthermore, the one that you picked out, paired with the same hairstyle, is just like that of the heroine in this season's top anime, who had hair with various gradations of white, although she was a fearless young warrior and so on. Narumi listened to his words pretty carefully, and found it hilarious how much he knew about this. He totally forgot he wasn't actually at Animate and started geeking out. She picked a few partial extensions that were also reasonable in price. Otakura said that they could even use the leftover money for add-ons. They spent a long time picking out various types of things from the store, and the next day everyone was shocked at how beautiful her hair was. She was getting compliments after compliments for her hair. As they walked together, she was so happy that everyone loved her hair. Going back to several hours earlier at the Narumi household, she was freaking out because she couldn't even do her hair while looking at the magazine. Luckily, Otakura thought this might happen, so he got up at 5 a.m. He said that he was heading out soon so that they could meet at the classroom and he could help her. He watched some videos on Kururinpa and managed to do it for her. When he finished the hair, she thanked him with all her heart because there was no way she could have done it herself. Otakura mentioned that there were some tricky parts to it. He suspected it before, but Narumi was not great with her hands. He said that her hairstyles always looked good on her, but today he really thinks she was on fire. She responded that he was no different. She noticed it yesterday after school, but he seemed taller. She noticed that he had been standing up straighter. She said that the extra height looked good on him. Otakura felt pretty embarrassed and could only smile politely. He then stated that he was an otaku and kind of unaware of how he looked to others. He had been deliberately acting humble because he didn't fit in this stuff, but maintaining that distance didn't feel right. He said that when he looked at her, he could feel like he could stand up straighter and walk taller, so he thought he would try paying more attention to his posture. But it was really hard. He was genuinely exhausted as he wasn't used to. She told him that his back was already rounded, so he must hang in there a bit longer. Although Otakura's good posture didn't last long in the end, the distance between them might still begin to close bit by bit. In the next scene, Otakura noticed the board that introduced the club activities. He recalled his teacher informing them that joining a club was not compulsory, but he thought if he joined an art style club, he might be able to make some otaku friends. That was a great idea, since he haven't made any friends since he entered school and the only person who ever talks to him is Narumi. But there was no way he could consider them as friends because she was a girl. He told himself to distance himself from her, but he could not change his mentality so soon. He told himself that he was just a useful classmate and he had only been allowed to walk by her side. While reminding himself repeatedly, Narumi called out for him. She said that she had been looking for him and wanted him to come with her. Otakura had no choice but to follow her lead. They cautiously peered through the door, trying to stay unnoticed. Otakura whispered that they looked incredibly suspicious and asked if they had any business with Class D. Narumi brushed off his concern, telling him to focus on the girl standing in front of the lectern. It was the same girl who had argued with Narumi when they went shopping for hair extensions, her friend Riko. As they watched, a boy approached Riko and asked if she had seen the soccer match last night. She mentioned that she had watched it with her younger brother, and they began chatting about the game. Narumi quietly filled him in, explaining that the boy's name was Yoshida, and he was the most popular guy in Class D. As Yoshida was popular with both the girls and boys in the class, one of his classmates teasingly asked if that was why he hadn't replied to his text. The group soon left the room, eager to show off their soccer skills, and Riko turned her attention back to her desk. Just then, someone bumped into her, causing her to drop her book. It became clear that this girl was bullying Riko. With a mocking tone, she claimed that Riko was so small and cute that she hadn't noticed her. Riko quietly ignored the taunt and bent down to pick up her book. The girl, irritated by Riko's silence, accused her of being rude for ignoring her apology. She then warned Riko not to get ahead of herself and told her to back off. Both Otakura and Narumi were shocked by the girl's behavior. Narumi was fuming with anger, especially since this bullying was happening when the boys weren't around to witness it. She explained that if she asked Riko about the situation, Riko would just deny it and insist that Narumi not worry about her. With that in mind, Narumi told Otakura she wanted him to come to her house before school the next day. As they grabbed a drink, Narumi explained her plan. Tomorrow morning she would invite Riko over and wanted Otakura to give Riko a makeover, just like he had done for her. Holding the bribery juice in his hands, Otakura was more confused than ever. He pointed out that even if they gave Riko a makeover, there was no guarantee it would stop the bullying. Narumi anticipated his concern and explained that, while she didn't fully understand it, some people judge others solely based on their appearance. That's why a makeover could be a powerful tool, a weapon of sorts. Still, she added, she believes people should dress however they want, whether it's flashy or not. Narumi explained that if a little makeover could save Riko from negative thoughts, she wanted to help in any way she could. She couldn't stand by and watch her friend being bullied, and assured Otakura that she had a plan. With that, she asked him to meet her at her house the next day. Otakura understood most of what she was saying, but he still wondered if he really needed to be there. He knew that if he tried to handle things on his own, he'd likely fail. To be honest, he didn't have the best impression of Riko due to her attitude. But he couldn't help but remember how he had been treated similarly to Riko in middle school. He often wished someone would have stepped in to help him. Hearing Narumi say that she couldn't just stand by and watch her friend be bullied left a strong impression on him. He realized that if he'd had someone like Narumi back then, someone who would stand up for him, things might have been different. For some reason, looking at her made him feel as though his past self was being rescued too. That's why he decided he was okay with helping her. He didn't know what she planned, but if she said so, he would do his best to help out with Riko's image change. Narumi seemed pretty happy with his dedication. The next morning at Narumi's house, Riko was furious to see Otakura there. Narumi quickly explained that she had invited him, but Riko was more concerned about why he was there so early, at 6 a.m. no less, and where Narumi's parents were. Narumi casually mentioned that her parents were on a business trip, as they had been traveling a lot lately. Riko started to panic, thinking they had spent the whole night together. They quickly corrected her misunderstanding, and Narumi added that they had been discussing her hair in the DMs, and that Otakura was there to help with it. Riko wasn't pleased and decided to leave, but Narumi stopped her, insisting that Otakura had done her hair that morning, and it turned out amazing. Riko, however, wasn't convinced. She argued that just because he fixed Narumi's hair didn't mean he should mess with hers. Riko's point was so valid that Otakura had no response, but with Narumi's persistence, Riko reluctantly agreed to stay. She sat down, warning Otakura that she wouldn't forgive him if he tried anything weird. As Narumi handed Otakura a mirror to help him, Riko guessed that Narumi was likely worried about Kanayama and just wanted some distraction. Seeing how cute Yua's hair looked today, Riko figured that if it was just about having her hair styled, she could go along with it. Otakura's hair iron was pretty small, and he explained that it was meant for dolls. Realizing this would take forever, Riko offered to lend him her own iron. Then, to the girl's surprise, Otakura asked if he could borrow some makeup. Both girls stared at him as if he were an alien. Narumi asked if he was planning to do makeup and admitted she wasn't sure he could pull it off. Otakura explained that when she mentioned an image change, he assumed makeup might be involved, so he had studied some makeup tutorials when he got home the previous night. Narumi was thrilled and impressed by Otakura's dedication, eagerly suggesting that they do makeup too. As she showered him with praise, Riko couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. She wondered if it was really a good idea to trust her entire image to change to someone who was still just an amateur and a bit clumsy. First things first, Otakura suggested starting by making Riko's hair straight. He asked politely to lend him her hair clip, and the hair straightening process started. Riko pretended to understand it because Narumi was there, but she was wondering if this guy was really able to do hair and makeup. If he makes it a weird hairstyle, he would beat the crap out of him. Before using the hair iron, he asked her to tell him if it got too hot. Riko then realized that if he made a mistake in doing her hair, she would get burned too. It can't be helped, so she decided to hold back for a little bit, and she started to feel sleepy because of how early she woke up. She realized that she was going to fall asleep because the iron was so warm. When they woke her up, all her hair was straight, including her curtain bangs. She started freaking out because she didn't expect herself to change this much. Narumi agreed and mentioned that Otakura was amazing. He was pretty good at blocking and using the clips. He stated that he only used to do it because he needed the doll wigs. He was even a little worried since Riko was swaying back and forth. But it was good that she wasn't making any fierce movements. Riko realized that this guy had serious marriage skills. Otakura informed Riko that since she had woken up now, they could do her makeup before finishing her hair. They prepared the makeup stuff, and what they were using were gold-colored eye color bases and those peach-pink-colored eyeshadows. Narumi said that pink was cute, but it was a precious image change for her, so she suggested making her into a powerful woman with makeup. He was quite confused, so she explained that they could make her eyebrows super thick and put in some color contacts and red lipstick. She showed an example for them to understand better, but Otakura wondered what Riko thought. She said that she wouldn't want to go to school with that much makeup. She decided to leave it to Otakura. Since he had watched lots of videos and prepared himself for her, she could just leave the choice of makeup to him because she wanted him to make her transform. Neither Narumi nor Otakura was expecting this kind of cooperation from her, so they were pretty happy. Otakura held her chin and looked at her face. He said that since she was so cute, he thought about making her eyes a little droopy and making her lips a bit sharper too. The thing she was freaked out was that he called her cute so casually. Narumi had an idea and suggested changing her clothing style while they were at it too. She started taking her clothes off without caring that there was a guy right next to them. Riko yelled at Otakura that if he looked at her, she would kill him. He said that he wasn't looking, but he was in fact peeking behind his fingers. After a while, they were done with makeup and Narumi suggested clipping her hair. In Otakura's opinion, even covered bangs were good in their own way. The alarm for the school rang and it was time for them to go. Narumi told Riko that she was a different person today, so she should have faith in herself. Now it was time to prank her whole class. When they entered the school, everyone was shocked at how the girl who always had a head was so different now. They started questioning if she had always been that cute. Yoshida was among those who had a hard time recognizing her. He stated that she looked so good. The other girls praised her eyes and said she looked like a doll. The reason why her hair looked like a doll was because of Otakura's doll hobby, and since Riko's hair fit perfectly, it ended up going very well. Riko mentioned that dressing up like this was so cold because her outfit was not something she would wear in April. He said that she would warm up if she moved and suggested playing soccer, proving that his mind was always on soccer. Kanayama came and started bad-mouthing Riko again, calling her a brat and claiming that she was getting ballsy since she was surrounded by boys. Narumi had enough of her and grabbed her to the hall. She pushed her to the door and scared the hell out of her. She told her that she could hear her and told her to stop bullying Riko. Kanayama acted like she was clueless as to what she was saying, but Narumi told her that she didn't need to play the confused card. She knew that Kanayama was after Yoshida and didn't want Riko to interrupt her. Kanayama was shocked and asked how she knew about that. Meanwhile, our otaku was worriedly watching the first girl fight he had ever witnessed. When Kanayama claimed that this had nothing to do with Narumi, she responded that it had something to do with her because Riko was her friend. While glaring at each other with hate and anger, Kanayama was freaking out on the inside because Narumi was a popular girl that no one could beat, and making her her enemy wouldn't be good for her. She said that she wouldn't mess with Riko and went to class. When she left, Narumi realized that she won. She was relieved a lot and thanked Otakura. Otakura wanted to ask something to her. He wondered if there was any need for Riko's transformation plan. Since in the end she ended up with the bullying problem and it would have been faster to just call them out from the start. Narumi explained that there was absolutely a need to do that because Riko's consciousness changed along with her looks. She made him watch Riko and it was obvious that Riko had become friendly with everyone in the class. She reminded him that image changes were a weapon, and that the most important thing was to have faith in yourself. On this day, Riko found the light in her life once more. But if there was something else, everyone should know that Yoshida liked the eye-covered bangs and her previous look. After school, Otakura immediately wanted to go home because he was too tired. That was a very long day for him because he spent his entire morning at Narumi's house doing makeup. He remembered how cool Narumi was the morning. But that manliness was just like that manga's heroine. Like the part where she keeps her friend precious and her looks from behind were similar too. He noticed the club activity board again and decided to learn from Narumi's positivity. While changing his shoes, Riko came. He was pretty surprised to see her and asked if she needed something. She wanted him to stop calling her with her last name and wanted to be called Riko. Besides that, she thanked him for today. He thought of a lot of things to get those guys out of her hair. She said that she only did it because she wanted to, so he didn't need to worry about it. Otakura thought he could actually use that experience for the doll works as well. When she didn't end the conversation, Otakura asked if she had something on her mind. She said that when he wasn't around, she said that he was gross and got scolded by Narumi. She said something like that without knowing about him, and she said that it was her bad and apologized for that. Otakura was shocked that she was bowing and sincerely apologizing for something that she thought he didn't even hear. In Otaku's head, he was thinking that Riko was apologizing like his younger sister from a while ago. And because of that fatigue, my thoughts weren't moving too well. So that's why his hand just moved on its own and patted her head, telling her that it was okay. He was a little shocked then, but she went out of her way to apologize and she was so serious. But when Riko looked at his face with a shocked impression, He realized that he was patting a girl's head like it was nothing. He immediately apologized and explained that she was acting like his younger sister and her head was just in the perfect position. While he was begging her to not sue him, she told him to not do it while in front of other people with the reddest face. She said that if he ever petted her head in front of Narumi, she wouldn't forgive him. That was all she wanted to say, and she left there. She said it as if he would pet her as long as it wasn't in front of anyone else. But he thought it was just him looking into it too much and wondered if he put on a blush when he did her makeup because her face was so red. A few days later, Narumi called Otakura in the cafe shop. There was a long line, so they started chatting. She asked if he comes to cafes often, and he responded that this was his first time coming to Foodorbucks. The other people were surprised that a girl was being nice to an otaku. Suddenly, Narumi needed to go to the bathroom and wanted him to hold her bag. When she left, Otaku explained to the guy behind him that his friend had gone to the bathroom, and the man was pretty understanding towards him. He said that he saw him as a man who understood gals. After that, Narumi came and they got their coffees. She said that she was really close to peeing herself. She said that she was wondering what she should do if her turn came up even though he wasn't here, and Foodorbucks' orders seemed hard to say. They were like an incantation and were a little too hard for her. That aside, the drink she ordered was amazing. She explained that the newly released frappe was popular on social media, so she really wanted to try it out. She suggested that he should buy one too, but he said that he was content with just a coffee. He could buy a manga and still have change left over from the same money to buy that frappe. Narumi must have a generous allowance, he thought. He then wondered what she wanted to talk about. She said that it was about Riko the other day. Narumi looked like she enjoyed talking with him. She told him about how Riko got more female friends after that, how she wanted him to make new fingernails for her, and how she wanted to design some new hair for her again. Just like that, she was able to talk to her without any effort at all. His body felt so ticklish and fluffy from it. It was the most amount of time he had ever spent like that. She then asked her if there was a way to easily lose fat. Otaku was shocked, so he couldn't really respond. She explained that it wasn't because he had gotten fat or anything, but it was getting warm recently and she would be showing more skin too. It was pretty ironic that she was asking this while holding a drink that was high in calories, tall in size, and had extra chocolate syrup. She said that before summer actually comes, she was thinking of squeezing her fat a little before that. He had no idea what on earth she was talking about. She continued to say that she had been trying not to eat sweet things recently too, even though she was holding one right now. Otakura cleared his throat and asked her if she knew how many calories were in that frappe. It was pretty obvious that she was clueless. Otakura wasn't sure if he was allowed to say this, but he continued to explain to her that that single cup of frappe had about the same amount of calories as a bowl of ramen. She was shocked to hear that because in her mind it was just a drink. She couldn't understand how that worked and thought ramen could be as full of calories as he thought. Otakura stated that she was straying away from reality. He explained that it just meant that the frappe had a high calorie and high sugar rate, and now she didn't want to drink all of it anymore, but leaving it behind was a waste. She tried to hand it to him and wanted him to drink it. He felt nervous because this would be an indirect kiss and he had no guts to ask that. On the other hand, if he resists too much, he might end up hurting her. He gratefully took the frappe and started drinking it. While he was drinking, her face got red and she said it was an indirect kiss, but she said it so quietly that he couldn't hear her. He thought Narumi wanted more and asked if she would like some. If they split it between the two of them, the calories would be lessened. She decided to just have one sip of it and started sucking the straw. She said it was delicious and he agreed with her even though he was so nervous that he didn't even taste it at all. In the next scene, a month has flown by since Otakura Koichi started high school, and he finally got a break. The Golden Week was here, and his plan was to catch up on all the anime he had missed, read some manga, play some games, and build some models. He also had to take care of his dolls. As he was trying to figure out what to do first, his phone buzzed, and he had a new message. It was Narumi, asking if Riko and Otakura were free for a shopping date. Since it was already May, she wanted to see the new spring and summer outfits. Riko was surprised by this sudden invitation from Narumi. Riko thought it wouldn't be bad to look for some new adult-like clothes, so she said she could come and asked if Otakura was free. Otakura felt nervous when he saw that Riko was coming. He then started to consider. Shopping costs money and he didn't really care too much about fashion, so he kind of wanted to turn it down. But when Riko said Otakura needed clothes to hide his otaku nature, he got mad and told her that he had normal clothes too. Narumi wanted to see how he dressed casually, so she wanted a picture. He decided to prove that he could wear a casual outfit and ended up putting on a good suit, thinking that today was the only time he could go so far. He was confident about his outfit, which included an unknown source of fake black leather pants and a cheap silver accessory, with a mysterious safety pin on a black shirt and a black jacket. Unlike what he thought, he looked very much like an otaku. Narumi said that it was his fashion so he could wear whatever he wanted, but if he didn't want to be seen as an otaku, she would say it was a bad fit. Riko told him to come tomorrow after he let his sister pick out his clothes for him. The next day, he got dissed by his younger sister, and she decided that the most casual clothes he had was his uniform. He didn't feel like he was on holiday with those clothes and felt pretty bad. Finally, Riko and Narumi arrived without making him wait so long. He almost went blind by how bright they were. There was such a level difference between them and him, who didn't even have clothes to go shopping. Narumi purposefully didn't ask about the uniform because she sensed something and immediately suggested starting with buying him some clothes. As they started walking around in the mall, he asked how his budget was looking. He brought 10,000 yen to start it off, which was quite a lot. She always thought that otakus bought so much stuff that they wouldn't have that much spending money. His funds for today came from his sold models. When he told them this, Narumi was shocked and asked if he was in a bad spot. He explained that he buys new models often and builds them. And once he gains enough satisfaction with them, he sells them and uses that money to buy more models. He mentioned that it depends on what it is, but they usually sell for a fine bit of money. This was a world that Narumi was a stranger to. Riko said that if he didn't buy something too fashionable, 10,000 would be plenty. He didn't plan on buying something like that and just wanted to buy normal clothes. Now that she knew the budget and what he wanted, Narumi suggested a shop named Reupload. Otakura was so excited because he knew about this store. They collaborated with one of the anime he watched. They went inside and started looking around at the clothes. Of course, they refused to buy anything that Otakura found interesting. Narumi noticed the spring vest that the mannequin was wearing and thought it would match him. Riko said it would make him look like a nerd, so she suggested a half-oversized crewneck knitted shirt. And since he had a lot of black clothes, if they chose a bright pair of pants, he might be able to do some arranging. And since it was Otakura, they knew he should be able to do something during the fall too. He was shocked that they were deciding everything at lightning speed. In the end, they created an outfit that contained an oversized shirt, a cardigan, wide pants, and sandals. Otakura liked this fit because even though the colors were plain, it looked so fashionable. Riko suggested buying the whole outfit, and Narumi agreed with her. He agreed with them and said that he was going to wear this as much as he could this year. He did go over his budget a little, but that happens. Now it was time to choose the girls' clothes. There were so many new releases, so Narumi didn't know how she was going to decide. Otakura agreed that there were quite a lot of cute ones there. Riko had an idea and suggested Otakura choose their clothes this time. That sounded fun to Narumi. Riko was sure Otakura wouldn't know his way around girls' clothes and she would tease him when he brought weird clothes. Otakura started looking around and picking clothes for the girls. 5 minutes later, he returned with the clothes and started explaining what he chose. He said that Riko wanted adult-like clothes today, so he brought wearing something a bit revealing and chose small things that were adult-like. Riko didn't expect him to give quite solid advice, but she said that there was no way those would look good on her. Narumi objected that she should wear these kinds of things. Otakura mentioned that, on the other hand, Narumi was revealing too much. Since she had clear white and long hair, he suggested wearing something less revealing. Immediately, he went to pick something out for her. Narumi ended up taking all the clothes he picked for her. She wondered if Otakura liked those neat types of clothes more while changing. Meanwhile, Riko was a bit uncomfortable with changing her clothes so close to a boy. Otakura called out for them from the other side of the curtain. They were both ready and came out of the cabin. Narumi was wearing a modest dress with a flower design which made her look like a rich princess. Riko came out and asked his opinion on the fit. She looked pretty good with her baby face with an adult-like style. While Otakura was clapping his hands for them and complimenting, they also noticed that both looked pretty good. Even though Otakura's male clothing sense was so bad, he was so good at choosing female clothing. There was a reason behind this. Otaku always chooses female avatars when he plays internet games and is quite particular about the equipment. Recently, he played social games and visual novels. That's why he could find good coordination. For girls' clothes only. He was having so much fun looking at girls' clothing. He wondered if they could have another look around the store because it might help him personally in the future. Riko realized that Otakura might have more interest in girls' clothing than her. When they finished shopping, Riko noticed that it was only 3, so she asked what they wanted to do now. She said that they could just wander around, but they had quite a lot on hand. Riko suggested looking for somewhere to sit. Narumi then had an idea, and she wanted to go to karaoke. Riko was fine with karaoke, but she wasn't sure about Otakura's opinion. But surprisingly, he was fine with it too. While Narumi was putting a reservation in, Riko expressed her surprise to Otakura. He explained that lately anime songs had been in the hit chart, so he would choose songs that they probably knew. Riko was not expecting too much from him anyway, so he could take it easy. However, he definitely surprised both of them with his performance. He was really good at singing and was confident. When he finished his song, he reached the highest score today. Riko's highest point was 95 and Narumi's was 94, while Otakura got 99. Otakura was able to let out a female voice as well, being one who had a diphonic class voice, meaning that he could sing a duet on his own too. He was surprised because his sister acted grossed out when he sang at home, but here, He could sing as much as he wanted. He wanted to do his best singing the female part too, but before that part, Riko wanted to join him because she knew the song. Judging by his reaction, Riko thought he was unsatisfied. Eventually, they started singing together, and Otakura realized that it was fun when they sang together. Narumi was cheering them both as they finished. As they put all their efforts together to sing the song perfectly, they were pretty thirsty and drank everything that was on the table. Narumi decided to go refill the beverages while they received their points for the duet. It was a full score. They were totally taken aback by this result and clapped their hands with thrill. Riko wanted to take a picture before it disappeared to show Narumi too. As Otakura took lots of pictures, Riko glanced at him. He noticed her face and asked if something was wrong. She asked if she got a good score and he confirmed her. She then asked if he had to do something. She then bowed her head. Otakura was puzzled at first but then realized that she could be telling him to pat her head. At this moment, Otakura remembered a time when a wild kitten got attached to him. With the hope of her not getting angry, he gently petted her head. While petting them, Riko reminded him to not do that in front of Narumi. Otakura didn't know when the appropriate time was to stop petting her head. He wondered if he was meant to continue petting her until she told him to stop. Thankfully, Riko told him to stop when the door opened, and Narumi came with the drinks. Even though they weren't doing anything, they still panicked and didn't know what to do at first. Before she questioned them, they showed her the pictures they had taken. Narumi wasn't really suspicious of them, but she still noticed Riko's face because it was so red. She asked if she was okay, and Riko tried to explain that it was because she was holding it in, and excused herself to go to the washroom. When she slammed the door, Otakura thanked Narumi for the drinks and asked if she would like to have a duet as well. But Narumi had different plans because she asked if he was petting Riko's head just then. As he froze there like a statue, Narumi giggled. She got a full view from the other side of the door before she entered the room. She said that she knew what was going on and he wanted to pet Riko's hand. As he couldn't find anything better to say, Otakura said he would pet her head as well if she wanted to. He was puzzled as to why she was questioning him like that. Hearing his response, Narumi leaned on him and wanted him to pet her too. He couldn't believe he was about to pet her head, but then realized that the position they were in was pretty uncomfortable for a head pet, because he would have to bring his arm around her back. Besides, if Narumi didn't get away from him, he would get seen petting her by Riko and he would have to explain that Narumi saw him petting her head, and then their little secret would come out and Riko would get angry. This was worse than hell for Otakura. He couldn't afford to bring down the mood after such a fun day today, so he decided to do exactly what Narumi wanted him to do. He brought his arm around her neck and started petting her head. While doing that, Narumi stated that it was a bit harsh that he called Riko Riko while calling her Narumi. He explained that it was because Riko wanted him to call her that. She said that she wanted him to call her Yua from now on, and he agreed with her. Seeing him so nervous like that, Yua couldn't help but burst into laughter. She then promised to keep it a secret that she saw him petting Riko's head due to his expression. She responded to his question earlier that she did want to sing a duet too. Since she got her head pet, Yua's mood went high. It was his first time being petted by a boy, so she was a bit happy. But the real reason for her happiness was because it was Otakura who petted her, but she didn't know that yet. Furthermore, the trio kept going extension after extension, and thanks to that, from the first day of the Golden Week, their throats were gone from singing so much. Coming up to the second half of the Golden Week, the three, Otakura, Yua, and Riko, were enjoying the summer a step early by going to pools. Yesterday, Riko texted the group chat that she got 3 free tickets for a heated pool tomorrow and asked them if they would like to go. Thanks to her, they were all enjoying the pool. Yua didn't forget to thank her parents too. Riko was glad that they were able to come because she thought Yua would be the period where she would be crying over her homework. Yua didn't even know if they had any homework. She then wondered why Otakura was taking so long to get ready. Riko suggested going towards the changing room. Suddenly, 2 outgoing college students came and asked if they could come together. They said that they were looking for something to do as well. Yua responded that they were not free and they were not sisters. Riko corrected them that they were in the same year. One of them realized that if they were the same year, it would mean that the ladylike blonde was a middle schooler with good growth, but the other one told him that they were high schoolers. Yua had enough and told them that they were waiting for someone, but he asked if it could be another girl that they were waiting for, and if it was, they could invite her and hang out together. Yua was about to reject them, but when she turned her back, she saw Otakura. As he was waving at them and apologizing for making them wait so long, they were taken aback by his fit body. They couldn't understand what was wrong with those muscles because they were way too much. He was explaining that it took a while to put on contact lenses for the first time, but all they could focus on was her muscles. He noticed the guys next to them and asked if they were friends. The guys were so intimidated by his body that they said they were just passing by and left there in a hurry. He was pretty confused and asked who they were, and Riko simply explained that they were just hitting on them, and there was nothing to worry about. But besides that, Riko asked what was with his muscles. He explained that there was a quite popular training anime a little bit ago and he got so absorbed into it that he started training at home and drank collaboration proteins. So he ended up looking like this. Yua mentioned that he was skilled, good at singing, and had a hidden macho which was not normal. She then asked if she could touch his muscles. He let her touch his chest and when she did, his muscles moved. She found it amazing that his muscles were twitching as she touched them. Otakura told Riko to try holding onto his arms and when she did, he easily lifted her and started spinning. The little kids who saw them wanted their dads to spin them too, but they were too out of shape to do that. Yua wanted to join them too, but Otakura told her that she was too high for this. She seemed pretty upset about it, but there seemed to be nothing to do. Riko asked if he could walk like this and he started walking. Yua thought this was just favoring Riko and then had an idea. She told him to squat down a little. When he bent over, she got on his back and asked him to carry her too. Panicking, Otakura was going to mention that her chest was right on his back, but seeing her face, he realized that she knew exactly what she was doing. He decided to play along and grabbed Riko too. Everyone was shocked once again that he could carry both girls like it was nothing. After this strength show, they went inside the water and went far away. They had also come to quite the deep end, so they asked if Riko was okay because of her height, but she told them not to underestimate her. She wanted to say that she could still touch the ground, but she was barely touching it. She regretted not bringing Yua's floaties with her, but Otakura was willing to go get it. He asked where it was, and she said that it was tied up next to the parasol. They thanked him and he started walking to get the floaty. He quickly found it and went back to the pool. He realized that Yua and Riko were getting hit on earlier and he left them on their own. It might be safer with him near them, so he needed to get back quickly. But a woman stopped him. He turned back and asked if there was something, and the woman who stopped him asked if she could touch his muscles even though it was a weird request. Otakura was shocked and wasn't sure if she was talking with him. He asked if she meant him and she confirmed him. She said that she was very interested in boyish macho muscles quite a lot. He thought she was asking this because his muscles were rare, and didn't even begin to think that he was being hit on. She thought he was rejecting her, but he said that he needed to head back. When she insisted that she was going to touch it just a little bit, he seemed pretty indecisive. Luckily, Yua and Riko came and they both hugged his arms asking if she was his friend. Riko cleared her throat and told the woman that he was theirs. She asked her to go away. The woman giggled and said that he was so friendly and cute, but she didn't insist on anything and excused herself. When she left, the girls had a quick jealousy attack. Otakura explained that she wasn't a strange person, she was just intrigued by his muscles, and asked if she could touch them. Yua and Riko both realized that he was so stupid to not realize that he was being hit on and started dragging him to the pool. They both thought, leaving Otakura on his own at the pool was too dangerous, despite the danger of them being hit on themselves. In the next scene, the Golden Week ended and another challenge for the students arrived, the midterm exams. Yua came to Otakura and begged him to help her study. Seeing her beg like that, he asked if she was that much in need of help. He wondered if her marks were so bad on the pop quiz they had today. When she showed her marks, he was shocked. Otakura was confused because since she was able to get into their high school, he thought she would have been able to study quite well. That was right, Yua was not dumb. In middle school, she had passed all her tests with flying colors. The reason why she was doing badly with studying now was because of Otakura. As long as she had time, she would get treated by Otakura and she experimented a lot with her hair and nails. As she scrolls through Twitter through the night, she often sleeps through her classes and with that, her grades suddenly drop. She said that their school was quite easy on how they dress and their hair, as long as their grades weren't terrible. That was the reason why she chose this school, but if she failed the midterm tests, she would have to change her hair and her skirt length, which was a nightmare for her. Otakura mentioned that even if he taught her, he wasn't great at studying either. She said that she was way better than her failing. She continued to beg him, so he had to accept helping her. Yua got so emotional and hugged him very tightly for not abandoning her. Otakura warned her that there were still people in the classroom and they were looking at them. The guys were pretty jealous of Otakura for being hugged by Yua. Riko came and saw them like that. They explained the situation to her, and she agreed that Yua needed to study. Yua was thinking of going to the library, but Riko said that it was jam-packed. They can't chat in the library, so she suggested doing it at home. Yua suggested going to her house and he was okay with that. Riko was impressed that she invited him like it was nothing and he was going with her like it was nothing too. Yua invited Riko too and she agreed to go with them as long as they didn't act lovey-dovey in front of her. With that being said, the after-school study session began. Although it began, Yua's studying ability was very grave. Otakura couldn't keep up with this only on weekdays, so they decided to come back there on the weekends and teach her everything in large amounts. And here they were on a Saturday, at Narumi family household doorway. She rang the bell and Yua and Riko welcomed him. Riko noticed that Otakura had quite a load today. He said that it was his secret weapon for the day. When he checked the tests she took, he noticed that she was getting most of the answers right. It was the basics of basics, so it wasn't that important. Yua gave up on the basics and wanted them to teach her the bare minimum, and she was fine as long as she didn't get failing grades for 3 years. Otakura responded that they cannot do that. Since it was already late, he was teaching her everything in one go. If she forgets everything he teaches her, she will fail from the next time onwards. And if that keeps on happening, she will repeat a year. Yua did not want to repeat a year and graduate properly. Riko told her not to worry because even if they were in different grades, she would still stay as her friend. They triggered her by saying that she could call them senpai. After the teasing ceremony ended, they spent their day studying and eating instant ramen until Yua had enough and her body started cracking so much. Otakura decided to take a break and took out the secret weapon he brought. He explained that it was good to have sugar when you use your head a lot, so he thought of those for a snack. They were Macedonia, an Italian traditional fruit punch. The girls seemed pretty interested in this dessert. When they asked if he bought it from somewhere, he responded that he made it himself. A manga he liked had the recipe, so he tried to copy it and made some. However, all he did was cut up some fruits and put some jelly inside. His younger sister liked it a lot, so he thought it would taste good. He gave them spoons and let them taste them. They both loved how it tasted and praised Otakura. Riko noticed that he wasn't eating and he said that he had a taste when he was making it, so he was fine. The truth was he only had 2 jars, so he couldn't make enough. Riko didn't accept this and told him to open her mouth. He was shocked, but when she told him that it would be hard for them to enjoy it if he was the only one who didn't eat it, he had to open his mouth and let her feed him. Yua, who was watching them with a shocked face, stopped them because that was an indirect kiss. Riko told her that they were not grade schoolers anymore and not worried about something like that. Yua didn't say anything back, so she decided to feed him too. Otakura froze for a moment, so she thought he didn't like that she already ate some and was about to cry. He eventually opened his mouth and let her feed him and thanked her afterward. Riko watched them blush and wondered if Yua was embarrassed because of an indirect kiss. But she was always flaunting her chest and legs, so there was no way she would be embarrassed over something like that. She decided to stop overthinking it and continued eating her dessert in silence. Otakura decided that it was time to go back to studying. Just like that, with the help of Otakura and Riko, Yua successfully passed the test the following week, and the reason why she was able to focus so well was because she wanted to distract herself from the indirect kiss. However, that was a secret that Yua would keep forever. On a certain day in May, Otakura asked Yua if she was free this Saturday. She eagerly responded that she wasn't doing anything and asked what they were going to do. She thought she was rewarded for not failing the midterm test, but he asked her to study over at his place. To confirm what she had just heard, she asked if they would study even though the study period was over. Otakura responded that this time she got lucky with what they taught her, but they needed to study all the basics again for the next tests. When she said she might not be free on Saturday after all, he told her that he was not going to help her with her term-end exams and asked if she was okay with that. Yua had to agree to study and asked if it wasn't a bother for his parents. He said that his parents were on vacation and his younger sister was sleeping over at her friend's house, so there was nothing to worry about. The classmates who overheard him inviting Yua were shocked. When they settled everything, Otakura stood up to go home. Yua remembered that he started club activities and asked what club he joined. He said that it was the second literature club. Otakura decided to imitate Yua's forward personality and decided to join a club just the day before. He first went up to the literature club room. However, the director of the literature club informed him that they mainly focus on club activities about poetry and novels instead of anime. Anime and stuff should be in the manga research club, but they get a lot of new club member applications, so they already closed new applications already. And there was also the second literature club, which was a little more niche. She didn't know if they were doing anything this year. It was a small club where all the main club members graduated. She heard from a rumor that it was still continuing with 2 first years from last year. Yo was pretty surprised to hear that he joined that mysterious club with no first years. He said that the people were quite niche, but they had the same interests. After Otakura left the class, Yua had an idea, and she started looking for the second literature club room. When she found it, she wasn't really sure if she was at the right place because it sort of looked like a storeroom. He opened the door and asked if anyone was there. There were 2 guys in the room, and they started panicking because they thought she might have misunderstood them. They were calling each other brother, and tried to rationalize that it was their club's activities to look at some shady pictures. Yua froze and tried to understand what kind of club this was. They finally asked her what she needed from them, and she said that she came here to ask about otaku. They of course didn't understand that she was talking about Otakura and started freaking out about a blonde-haired gal calling them otaku and wanting to see them. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that, and since it was so confusing, she told them to tell her their names. The chubby one was Chobam and the other one was Engine because apparently his engines were at full power. Even though they were not related by blood, they were calling each other brothers. Chobam said that she may have noticed their unique way of speaking, which was a respectful 2000s Akihabara culture that should be loved. It was called Y2K, and they thought gals would be into it too. But Yue didn't care about it at all. She never thought it would be this strange. She asked if there was a club member named Otakura. Chobam responded that he was indeed enrolled, although he had requested not to come today. Yue said that she just wanted to talk to them about Otakura, and asked if she could ask them some questions. They agreed to listen to what she was going to say. In the next scene, it was Saturday, and Otakura cleaned everything in the bathroom. He had checked over and over again that there was nothing strange on the floor and hidden everything that might be weird if she saw it. He looked around and didn't see anything that he missed. But this didn't help him with his worries. He knew it was too late to be thinking this, but inviting a girl over when no one else was home was unthinkable. There was no way an otaku like him could even be in the sights of Yue, but today was a study session, so all they were going to do was study. The doorbell rang and he went down so fast that he almost fell. He welcomed Yue and noticed that she was holding a suitcase. He thought this was quite a lot of luggage and wondered if she was planning on staying over. Yue stated that she wanted to get changed. He was shocked that she was planning to do that here. She confirmed him and started pushing him outside. She told him not to worry, and she would call him back when she was ready. When she closed the door, Otakura started wondering what was happening because he thought girls get changed as soon as they get to someone's house, although he was wondering what she was getting changed into. While wondering, Yue opened the door and told him to come back in. When he entered the house, he did not expect her to wear a maid dress and welcome him by using the word master. Otakura was shocked, but he had no idea what she was trying to aim at. Yue thought he would get it as she was wearing a maid's clothes, but he said that he got that it was a maid, but the reason why he didn't get it was because he didn't know why she was wearing them. When he asked who told her to dress up like that, she responded that it was Chobam and Engine. She asked them how she could thank him for helping her study, and they said a maid would be the best option, and even lent her those clothes. Otakura had so many questions, like when she asked them why they had made clothes. She said that she wanted to thank him, and to do that she was going to service him today. She also added that Chobam and Engine showed her lots of images to understand what a maid should do. Otakura was shocked, and just hoped that they showed her the safe ones. He realized that Yue was way too on board and that he could not stop her. He decided to request something simple and end this pretend maid thing. He asked if she could give him a shoulder massage when they finished studying. She agreed to do that right away, but he reminded her that he said when they finished studying. Moving to the next Monday, Otakura was scolding Engine and Chobam. Apparently they didn't think that she would go with what they had said to her. While Chobam was trying to calm him down, Engine realized that he was in the same room as Yue. They began to force him to tell them what happened because they were sure something definitely happened. When Otakura told them that nothing happened and there wasn't anything, he recalled the moment when she said his shoulders were quite stiff. While massaging him, she asked if he had worked a lot recently. Since he was hunched, she leaned on him and told him that she was going to make sure to give him a thorough massage. Thinking about that made him blush, and he had to admit that something had happened. All the things aside, the maid clothes that the two prepared were slightly enjoyed by Otakura. In the next scene, Yue asked Otakura if his group for the excursion had been decided. Yesterday in the homeroom, they had to make groups of 5 or 6 boys and girls. It is quite a high hurdle to jump for an introvert like him. Yue was wondering what happened, and he explained that Otsuka invited him. So he was in a group with 3 boys right now. She also invited her friends, so she suggested joining their groups together. And it sounded like a good idea to Otakura. He decided to check with Otsuka if they could meet up with her group. The season turns to June for the Autumn Flowers high schoolers. It was the first out-of-school study session. It was a season for excursions. When they were gathered, Yue said that their class didn't have anything to do after looking at the local castle ruins. It was 11 a.m., and in front of the castle ruins park. Otsuka said, even though they said it was just free time after they looked here, everything was way too easy, going and wondering what high schoolers were doing taking an excursion in their hometown. The other members tried to stop him from saying stuff like that. They haven't done much, but other classes have gone quite far. And the Castle Ruins course had the shopping district close by, so Rico and Class F said they went to some factories. He showed him a photo of them, and Otsuka seemed calmer. A member named Kanda told Otakura they were thinking about going to the game center and asked what he was going to do. He said that he planned on going shopping with Yue, and Yue said she was borrowing Otakura. While walking, the boys commented that going shopping with Narumi was amazing. And not only was it Narumi, but the Murata sisters were also with her today. Meanwhile, Otakura asked the Murata sisters if it was okay if he was with them. The girls were completely fine and were pleased to meet Otakura. The older one was named Kanon Murata, and the younger one was Shion. Those twin girls were sisters who stood out, and they were Yua's friends. Class B was also assigned Castle Ruins, so they grouped up immediately. Shion mentioned that they were fine with anything but wondered if he was okay. Kanon also wondered if it wasn't boring for him to shop with girls. Yua immediately explained to them that having Otakura was a must because he had a great sense of picking things out for girls. She showed her nails and hair and told them that Otakura was the one who chose her nails and did her hair for the day. Kanon said that this was perfect because they were going to see some extension and told Otakura to keep an eye out for them. Otakura mentioned that by going straight into the shopping district, they would find the store he went to with Yua last time. Seeing him talking to them like that, Yua realized that this was the perfect chance to show the Murata sisters how amazing Otakura was. She couldn't even hide her grin because she was so excited. When they arrived at the hair shop, Yua was still thinking about Otakura. He might be a bit self-conscious at first, but if they all stayed together, she was sure he would get used to it. Meanwhile, Kanon asked Otakura why one was cheaper even though they were the same color. He explained to them that it was because of the quality of the hair. The ones that said they could withstand higher temperatures for hair irons were a bit more expensive. When they asked if they should buy the expensive ones, he told them that that wasn't always the case. He said that if they don't want to change the forms, they should buy the cheaper ones. Yua listened to them carefully and realized that Otakura was getting used to talking to girls. She couldn't imagine him talking friendly with girls, but she always saw him on his guard in the classroom unless he was talking to her. She wondered if Otakura gained immunity to flashy girls because of her. She wasn't wrong. Thanks to Yua's efforts, Otakura had become less scared of girls. And he thought, if they were Yua's friends, they wouldn't be bad girls, and was able to speak quite smoothly with Murata sisters. So, this situation was pretty much entirely Yua's fault, however. Yua was a bit jealous. She was the one not out of the loop, and this was not a good thing. She called Otakura over and told him that she wanted to see some accessories after this. Otakura was puzzled because during the public holiday in May, he thought she bought lots of clothes and accessories. He then had an idea and thought he figured it out. He thought she was trying to make a situation to make them even friendlier because she saw how well he treated the two. He said okay and promised to make sure to exceed her expectations. Moving to the next store didn't change anything because he was still surrounded by the Murata sisters again. Otakura found very cute piercings and said that the older sister should have gold, and the younger one would look better with silver. They also felt like it matched their skin tone as well. They complimented Otakura as he was looking over their personal colors too. Meanwhile, Yua was frowning. Shion noticed her face and whispered to her sister to look at her. It was clear that she was in a bad mood because she wasn't even trying to hide it. Kanon wondered if it was because they were hogging Otakura, and Shion agreed with her. And if she was jealous that they were hogging him, it means Yua and Otakura might be dating. They thought they were completely screwing them over and felt the need to apologize to Yua along with returning Otakura. They made a plan and told Otakura and Yua that there were so many people outside and that if she walked out of the store, she might get lost. So all they could do was hold hands and walk together. Seeing them walking away from the store holding hands, Yua and Otakura were both confused. They told them to hold hands too because becoming lost and calling for help here would be so uncool. Yua's face started blushing and she tried to stop them, but they were already walking away. She apologized to Otakura on behalf of the Murata sisters, but then mentioned that it was true that it would be bad if they got lost. Otakura froze there like a statue. He started to freak out on the inside because he didn't know what she meant. He calmly agreed that if they were late to the gathering point, it would cause trouble for everyone else. Yua was trying to calm down while wondering if it was her fault for getting frustrated over her hands or if Otakura was way too calm thinking about the group. Otakura was not better than her because he was also thinking about how comfortable Yua was about holding hands. While they both tried to keep calm and figure out what to do, Yua reached his hands and stated that if he was okay with it, she didn't mind at all. Otakura was surprised but then told her that he was okay with that too if she didn't dislike it. With that, they held hands for the first time. As they both tried to process their feelings, Yua was the first one to be able to talk and suggested chasing after the Murata sisters. He agreed with her and wondered where they went. While they were walking, the Murata sisters were watching them in secret. Even though they were the ones that kicked them off, it was too good. Leaving Otakura aside, Yua's reactions were unexpected. It was confirmed that her feelings were true. After taking lots of pictures of them, they decided to leave them alone until the gathering time came. In the next chapter, Otakura and Riko were watching a movie together. When the movie ended, he asked Riko if she was okay, and she said that it made her cry more than she thought it would. Otakura agreed that it was a good movie and wanted to come back and watch it again. Riko looked at him as if she was looking at an unknown creature because she was surprised that he watched movies more than once. He explained that he had to watch good movies more than once to have different perspectives. The next day at the second literature club, Yua came in panic and asked if they could go to the movies together. She was pretty bummed that they didn't invite her, but Riko explained that it was an anime movie and she didn't watch anime. She knew that, but she thought they could give her a nudge at least. She told her that they went off on a whim and apologized. Riko meant to go with her younger brother, but he had to do something last minute. Meanwhile, Chobam and Engine were discussing how the second literature club became a hangout area for outsiders. But Chobam wasn't uncomfortable with that since this situation was what happens in youth animes after school hours. While doing today's club activity, which was to put on labels, Otakura and Riko started discussing the movie. He mentioned the theme song, and Riko said that the lyrics made her think about what was going to happen from here onward. Yua couldn't stand them talking like that, but if they went to the movies alone, this would make it a date. Even though Otakura held hands with her the other day, he was going on dates with Riko. She started to feel dizzy just thinking about this. Seeing her so upset, Riko apologized again and explained that she didn't know that she wanted to go to the movies that badly. She told them to be sure to let her know next time. Yua's fuzziness didn't end there. A few days later, Kanon came and mentioned how Otakura had become quite the popular guy. At the class, everyone was gathered around Otakura's desk and was asking him to pull up his sleeves a little more. They were pretty surprised because they thought he was an otaku, but seeing those biceps made them reconsider. They all thought he would be super skinny. Kanon told Yua that they didn't know since he had long sleeves, but Otakura was quite the hidden macho. She asked Yua if she knew it, and she casually said that she knew that Otakura was amazing when he stripped. The whole class, including Otakura, was shocked that she could say that so comfortably. Kanon had to ask if they had gone that far, but Yua was confused. Otakura stepped in and explained that he went to a heated pool with her and Riko from Class B. Yua then realized what she said and started blushing. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it in a weird way. Kanon had seen them together a lot recently, so she just assumed. Yua was still trying to explain herself, but the way she didn't help her get out of this weird situation at all. Otakura felt bad that Yua was in trouble because of him and felt the need to get everyone's attention somehow. The only thing he could think of was to show everyone what she meant, so he took off his clothes and told everyone to look at him. His plan was a success because everyone was focusing on his muscles instead of Yua. She was quite surprised but didn't say anything. That day it started raining after school, and when Otakura was about to head home, he saw Yua waiting at the entrance because she didn't seem to have an umbrella. Yua asked about his club activities, and he explained that there was no activity because of the tests. He asked if she had forgotten her umbrella, and she said yes and asked if he could let her in until the station. While opening his umbrella, Otakura reminded her to look at the weather forecast in the mornings. He also informed her that it wasn't a big umbrella, so she might get wet. She thanked him and responded that she would just cling to him so she doesn't get wet. While clinging onto him, she thrusted her melons, which made him pretty nervous. Even if it was because of the rain, Otakura felt like they were a little too close. And something smelled good too, and he could feel her breasts. Even though they held hands the other day, Yua used a lot of skinship. He suddenly wondered if she would do this to other boys too, and this made his heart start itching. Yua noticed him and asked what was wrong. He tried to gloss it over, but she insisted and started to worry that she was a bother asking to be let into his umbrella. He said that this wasn't true, but she still wondered if he was holding back because he was so kind. Otakura suddenly told her that if she was calling him kind, she was kinder than him. She questioned this sudden statement, but he said that he always thought that. Since he was an otaku, he was always called gross in middle school, but she never looked at him that way. Since she always talked to him so casually in class, everyone else talked to him as well. Yua interrupted him and corrected him that he wasn't gross at all. He was always helping her out and helped with Riko's image change, and he was a good person. If he was calling himself gross, the people who called him gross just because he was an otaku would be even worse. Otakura didn't expect her to be so defensive towards him and repeated that she was still very kind. When they arrived at the station, Yua mentioned that she needed to go by the shop so they would split up there. Otakura assumed that she was going to buy an umbrella, so they said goodbye to each other. When Yua turned her back to him, she started to wonder. She should be feeling happy seeing him making more friends, but she had felt strange since the other day and didn't know the reason. She opened her bag and took out the umbrella she said she had forgotten. Feeling guilty for lying, she told herself that she was not kind at all. In the next scene, their English teacher Aloha informed the class that he marked their tests and was going to give them back before they go home. They told them to come and get them in the order of their seat numbers. When Otakura and Yua looked at their results, Yua asked him how he did on the test. Seeing Yua's facial expression, Otakura knew that she wanted him to ask her back. He responded that he didn't do too badly and asked her about her result. She calmly showed her results and told him to look at it. He said that all of them were about average. To be honest, all of them were just below average, but she was doing better than before, so he had to keep praising her, so she kept that drive to study. Riko came and showed them her results, which were way above average scores. Yua was shocked and felt super provoked. To trigger her more, Riko asked Otakura if he would rather have a girl with a good test score or a girl with a bad test score. Otakura calmed them down and took them outside. While walking home, Yua mentioned that since their end-of-term tests were done, all that was left was the summer break. Otakura mentioned that they had career counseling afterward too and preparations for the cultural festival. Riko's class was talking about that too. They had decided what to do before the graduation ceremony using the first half of September and the summer break. Yua asked Otakura what he wanted to do at the cultural festival. He hadn't thought much about it, so Yua suggested thinking about it together and making sure to give it their all. Otakura almost said, there wouldn't be much point if someone like him gave it their all. He may have nearly made a slip of the tongue, but if he said something like that, Yua would be sad. So he just matched her energy. Riko wished to be in the same class as them and hoped they would be in the same class next year. And so, they decided what to do during the culture festival and held the graduation ceremony. Summer break starts tomorrow, but there is one final event left in July. Yua came to Otakura and asked if he was free next Friday. He was, but wondered if something was going on. She said that next Friday she and Riko would go over to his house, so he should make sure to stay free. Otakura was okay with that and then noticed that she was walking home, so he offered to walk together to the station. But she said that Riko had off part-time job after that and left there in a hurry. Otakura was not used to being invited or refused, so he was a tad shocked. He realized that Yua was in quite a rush and wondered if she was raising funds for the summer break. The following weekend, Riko and Yua came to Otakura's house as they promised. He welcomed them and felt relieved that his greeting went perfectly. He cleaned the place and practiced greetings before they arrived. He brought them to his room and told them to sit wherever they liked. Seeing Otakura's bed, Yua jumped right on it. She didn't just lay on the bed but started rubbing against it. When he asked what the hell she was doing, she explained that she rubbed her scent into his bed, and now he could smell her while he went to sleep. Riko frankly told her that she was acting like a pervert and told her to quit it. She was quite offended by what Riko said, but Riko asked Otakura if he agreed. He couldn't say anything because he was actually very happy about this. That aside, he noticed that they brought a lot of stuff with them and asked if they brought homework or something like that. Yua stood up and stated that he was wrong. She wanted to take it out and Riko agreed. They took out a box and asked him to guess what it was inside. He would assume it was a cake just looking at the box because a cake picture was right on it, but he acted like he didn't know it and Yua excitedly revealed that it was a cake. He acted like he was so happy, but more importantly, he was confused. He wondered if they were just going to eat a cake instead of studying today. They didn't stop there and took out his presents. They also wished him a happy birthday, which made him freeze for a moment. He totally forgot that today was his 16th birthday. Since his birthday comes during the summer break every year, only Otakura's family ends up celebrating it, and he also didn't have any friends to celebrate it. But this year seemed to be different from the rest. He couldn't believe this cake was his birthday cake. Yua noticed that Otakura was way too shocked. Riko told him to ignore the cake and open their presents. Yua agreed and wanted to explain what they bought. Yua's present was a cologne for him. Since they bought some normal clothes the other day, she thought that if he put this on, he could sort of level it up. She told him to make sure not to put too much on. Otakura seemed to like the smell of cologne. He then noticed that it was the same one she was using right now. The thought of smelling Yua on him was quite stimulating for him. The next present was Riko's. She bought him a good pair of white sneakers. It was a color he definitely wouldn't buy on his own. Riko knew that and said he could wear them all season. Otakura stated how happy he was and was also surprised that she knew his shoe size. Apparently she checked his shoebox at the school to find out. She also bought a pair for herself, but she told herself that she didn't buy them just so they could match like Yua did. She just wanted a pair for herself too. Seeing her blushing, Yua asked if it was too hot. When Otakura asked if they were okay with this because they gave him such expensive presents, he realized that they worked at a part-time job after school. He said that he couldn't accept those if they took one-off part-time jobs just to buy those. They told him that he had to take them. To their defense, he always helped them out, and they needed him to let them pay back the favor every once in a while. Realizing that he couldn't change their opinion, he had to accept the gifts. He thanked them and promised to take good care of them. Now that they had finished handing out the presents, it was time to eat the cake. Otakura said that he would bring them some drinks, plates, and a knife. Riko mentioned that she also brought some board games too. After the cake, they played games and spent their day enjoying Otakura's birthday. Otakura went to the door to see them off before they left. Yua said they would see him, then they prepared for the cultural festival. They said goodbye to each other and left. As Otakura was about to go inside, Chobam and Engine came and gave him their presents. Wondering what it was, he opened the bag, and it was a maid costume. It was a different design from the one Yua was wearing. They said that if he was an otaku like them, he should at least have one of them for himself. Otakura slammed the door on them because it was a ridiculous present. Even though he said it was stupid, he stored it properly, making sure not to create the outfit. In the evening, her mother came back from work, and since it was his birthday, she brought his favorite food. Otakura enjoyed their dinner together and took a bath afterward. When he got into bed, he realized that today was the best birthday he had in a long time since everyone was able to celebrate with him. But he had a hard time sleeping because Yua's scent lingered in his bed. It was already August, but even during summer vacation, mornings started early for the students of Akihana High School. The reason? They were preparing for the upcoming cultural festival. Otakura rushed into the classroom where his classmates, buzzing with excitement, eagerly asked what he had brought. He explained that he had prepared small, medium, and large versions as examples. His classmates were surprised that he had finished so quickly. The reason Otakura had captured everyone's attention. Holding a Shinsengumi outfit, dated back to before summer break. Their teacher had announced that their class's project for the cultural festival would be an end of the Edo period cafe. The concept was well received by the boys, who found the historical period intriguing. However, the girls were not as enthusiastic, feeling the theme leaned too much toward masculine elements. They also wondered what role they would play in such a cafe. The plan was to dress up in costumes and serve customers. But if they were recreating the end of the Edo period, they needed to wear Shinsengumi uniforms. The problem was, they didn't know what to do with the costume arrangement. Some of them suggested buying online, but they were so expensive. There was no way they could all afford this, so they had to come up with a new idea. Yua had an idea and remembered that Otakura could make clothes. No one expected her to bring that up. Instantly, the class's attention shifted to Otakura and Yua, as Otakura whispered to her, trying to clarify that he had only ever made clothes for dolls. Yua confidently replied that if he could make doll clothes, he could make them for people too. With curious eyes on him, Otakura quickly explained that he had never sewn clothes for people and wouldn't be able to make outfits for everyone. If they were serious about it, they'd have to sew the costumes themselves. Surprisingly, that was more than enough for the class. They were eager for Otakura to teach them how to sew, and they were confident they could handle it. The enthusiasm was so high that Otakura couldn't refuse. Meanwhile, Yua stood to the side wearing a satisfied expression that said, "This was my idea." In a calm, collected tone, she told everyone to relax and let Otakura finish explaining. But the class was already in chaos, bombarding him with questions, asking if he could make Western-style clothes too. They surrounded him so quickly that Yua couldn't even see him anymore. That's how Otakura ended up in charge of the costumes for the cafe, which is why he came to school with those samples. It had taken him about half a month to finish his work, and his classmates were impressed with the results. However, while the haori was manageable, he mentioned that making the hakama would be more difficult. His classmates reassured him, saying they could handle that part themselves. They could probably borrow a few pairs from the kendo club. The girls from the archery club also offered to lend a hand. Speaking of the girls, Otakura realized he hadn't seen any around. The boys explained that they were in the staff room picking up supplies. After brushing off the mention of the other girls, they teased him, asking if he was looking for Narumi. He denied it awkwardly, which only led them to ask if he was dating her. He denied that too, but they pointed out that the two of them were always together. He explained that it was just because Yua was naturally friendly with everyone. But they insisted it wasn't true, pointing out that Yua only had a nickname for him. Another classmate chimed in, adding that Narumi didn't usually get close to just anyone. It was then that Otakura realized he might have been misunderstanding something all along. Still processing their words, Yua walked into the classroom and asked if someone had called her. Trying to calm himself, Otakura mentioned that since the sample costumes were finished, he wanted everyone to try them on. Yua, surprised at how quickly he had completed them, immediately wanted to try hers. Once she put it on, she said it really made her feel like they were at a cultural festival. As Yua chatted with the others about costumes from other classes, she noticed Otakura quietly staring at her. Concerned, she asked if something was wrong. He panicked and quickly said it was nothing, though he had accidentally been staring because of the strange things everyone had been saying earlier. Kanon, noticing the situation, had an idea. She pointed out that they still needed to buy a few more things to complete their preparations, and suggested that Yua and Otakura go shopping together. They both seemed tense about this idea. Kanon reminded Otakura that he already wanted to look for materials for the costumes and small bits. He couldn't find any excuses not to go with Yua, so they were about to head to the store. But before they left the class president stopped them and wanted to go with Otakura. Her name was Tukimitsu Ayaka. She said that she did have the responsibility of managing their funds, so it would be better. She turned to Yua and asked if it was okay, and she nervously agreed with her. When they left, Kanon apologized for not being able to help her. 3 hours passed and Otakura and Ayaka were still outside. When the boys said they might having a lot of fun and having tea, Kanon tried to stop them, but Yua already heard them. She was looking out the window and noticed that Otakura and Ayaka were returning. Yua was happy that they had returned, but seeing Otakura and Ayaka so close together didn't sit well with her at all. When Ayaka almost stumbled, Otakura caught her just in time like a hero, and they both started giggling like a couple. Yua couldn't believe what she was seeing. As they entered the classroom, Otakura noticed Yua frowning. Trying to lighten the mood, she suddenly mentioned that she wanted to go to the pool soon, then suggested beach camping and seeing a movie. Hearing her list all the activities she wanted to do with him, Otakura laughed and pointed out that they couldn't possibly fit all that into a single summer. He was about to ask if something was bothering her, but then he noticed the expression on her face. Her eyes were welling up and she looked like she was about to burst into tears. Before Otakura could figure out what was happening, Yua quickly took Murata with her and left the room. Confused and concerned, Otakura was left wondering what could be wrong. In the next scene, Otakura is thinking about Yua and her class breakdown. Something was off about her during the cultural festival preparations today, and she seemed kind of strange. It was normal for her to suddenly get excited, but she never got upset when he turned her down. He thought it might be because they haven't done any summer activities yet and she was probably dying to do something like that, but he was wrong. He tried to look for something summer-like from a light novel, but he failed. He then had an idea and sent their group chat if they would like to light some fireworks at a nearby park tomorrow night. Riko had to refuse since her relatives were here, but Yua agreed. She even asked how many rockets they were going to shoot into the sky. He thought that was something Yua would say. Seeing her answer causally made him think that she might just be in a bad mood during lunch. The next day, they bought fireworks and headed to the park. Yua was in high spirits. Otakura suggested they light half of the fireworks now and invite Riko to join them next time. Since the park was in a residential area, they could only use handheld fireworks, and they needed to finish by 9 p.m. When they arrived, a few people were already there, and Yua was buzzing with excitement. Otakura went to fill up a bucket with water. As he was doing so, a nearby family watched him and told him to take his time. He thanked them but was puzzled, wondering if they were worried the fireworks might be too noisy. What he didn't know was that the family thought he and Yua were a young couple. With water and fire ready, Yua asked which firework Otakura wanted to try first. She picked out the pink one, while Otakura opted for the one that changed colors 4 times. Yua lit up the fire and she was pretty happy with how it turned out. She started jumping around and asked him to take a picture quickly. She then suggested having a sparkler firework match. Otakura accepted her challenge and they started. Even though Yua was so competitive, she lost immediately. After a bit of playful competition, Yua asked if she could light the biggest fireworks. She sat down and tried to light it, but it wouldn't ignite. Just as she was wondering if it was a dud, Otakura came up behind her to help. However, she lost her balance and fell backward onto Otakura. In an attempt to catch her, Otakura instinctively reached out, but his hands ended up on her breasts. Both of them were so shocked that they froze for a moment. Though it looked like a hug, Otakura was painfully aware of where his hands were. He knew he needed to move, but with Yua leaning on him, any sudden movement could make them both topple over. As he cautiously moved his hands lower, he realized Yua wasn't saying anything. She eventually turned her head slightly and commented on how clear the stars were. Surprised by her calmness, Otakura followed her gaze and looked up at the stars. Still unsure of what to say, he said that the one they could see right now was the summer triangle of Deneb, Vega, and Altair. The constellations they could see in the Milky Way were Cygnus, Aquila, and Leo. Yua was pretty surprised that he knew so much about the stars, so he explained that there was a good anime song with lyrics like that, but suddenly realized that it wasn't that he wanted to talk about the stars. He couldn't think of anything else at all to talk about. But Yua seemed interested and said that if constellations were thought up a long time ago, if they think of some of them now, she wondered if they would still be talked about in the future. Otakura also wondered about that too. Then she pointed at a star and named it the Yua constellation and the next star the Otakura constellation. The Otakura constellation looked like glasses, and the Yua constellation looked like it said Yua. The sky reminded Yua of the nails he made for her. The evening ended with Otakura walking her home, and after dropping her off at her door, he couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. His mind wandered to the stars, wondering if she had been subtly pointing out Altair and Vega. He dismissed the thought, telling himself he was overthinking. It was just a story after all. Vega was Orihime and Altair was Hikoboshi, 2 lovers separated by the heavens. Meanwhile, Yua sat in her room, her heart racing. She was certain Otakura must have noticed how fast it was beating. She could even hear his heartbeat so clearly at that moment, a rhythm that echoed her own. Embarrassment washed over her as she replayed the words she had shared with him, feeling shy about how vulnerable she had been. Yet despite her nerves, there was one undeniable truth. She was in love with Otakura. Yua showed Otakura the number of rings she had made from paper. Otakura was shocked and said it was so long that it would reach the floor, so they had to split it apart. Entering late August, the preparations for the Culture Festival were underway. Class 1E, which otaku were in, was preparing for the end of the Edo period cosplay cafe. They were putting in much hard work during the summer break. Yua was a little clumsy, so she was only assigned simple tasks. Otakura suggested using the rest of the rings in the photoshoot space. Someone suggested that they lend costumes to the customers too. That seemed like a great idea. Yua suddenly started walking around him, so he asked if something was wrong. She panicked and said nothing, but thankfully someone needed Otakura's help to do something, so he had to go. All Yua could think about was the fact that she was in love with him. She had no idea what she was supposed to do. She was far too aware of this and didn't know how to keep her distance from him. She wondered if she was getting too close to him, but if she pulled away too suddenly, that would also seem suspicious. She tried to recall how she normally acted around him. Her friends came to ask if they could choose which sweets they would serve at the cafe. They were allowed to taste test all of them if they provided proper feedback. There were various types of sweets and they all looked quite tempting. While others sampled the sweets, Yua's mouth watered at the sight of them enjoying those delicious treats. She offered Otakura the chance to taste test with her, but then noticed that his hands were dirty from working. She suggested washing up first, which made Otakura feel embarrassed. He said he had been using brown paint while helping out earlier, so he looked unkempt. He asked if there was anything on his face as well, and she mentioned there was some on his collar too. He went to the bathroom for a moment to wash up. He felt refreshed after cleaning his hands and face. His shirt got quite wet, but he hoped it would dry off later. He suddenly realized that Yua had been sticking really close to him today, but he might be imagining things since it was normal for her to have little personal space. While drying his face, he overheard students talking about Yua. They commented on how pretty she was, and someone said they could always barely see her panties. Another pointed out that she was pushing her breasts against a weak-looking otaku with glasses. Their talk started to get really disgusting, so Otakura cleared his throat to stop them. They asked who he was while Otakura was giving them a menacing look. He flexed his muscles to scare them off, and it worked. He was glad they left with a flex and a grunt. There was no way he could fight them, but he still heard something he didn't want to hear. Now that he knew that there were boys who looked at her that way, he wondered if he should let her know about it. When he returned to class, she seemed pretty excited. She said he took a while and brought some sweets for himself too. He thanked her, and when he was about to eat, he noticed that Yua was nudging him, so he thought about telling her. He knew she couldn't keep getting this close just because it was him. If she clung this close to other boys, they would obviously misunderstand her, so he decided to tell her. He got closer to her and told her not to cling to any boys other than him. She was shocked, so he told her not to do anything to other people that they would misunderstand. Yua's face turned red and she agreed to do what he said. Otakura seemed surprised at first, but then got happy that she listened to him. He then suggested eating the sweets and continuing their hard work. The other people in the class had already noticed how they were being lovey-dovey again. Yukimitsu was also there and watched Otakura laugh around with her. She sat and accepted the fact that Otakura would most likely rather have a girl like Narumi over her, who was dark and gloomy. This was right after they entered the school. It happened right in the classroom. Someone bumped into her and walked out without helping her, but Otakura saw her and helped her get her things off the floor. When he picked up a book, he said this series was interesting and he was very moved by the reunion scene in the 5th volume. Yukimitsu responded that this wasn't something he should say in front of someone else. He panicked and apologized to her. In reality, she was only embarrassed to talk about light novels in the classroom, but she wanted to say that she liked that scene too. She couldn't say it because she was shy. Otakura was always kind to her. He asked if she had read the new volume and helped her with her work. So even though she knew it was bad for Narumi, she ended up wanting more. One day, Otakura left the school and went shopping with Yukimitsu. While walking, he saw a collab cafe and asked her if they could drop by for a second because they would get a free coaster when they ordered a drink. She smiled and said he was a bad boy, and she must observe him as the class president. So with that being said, she must accompany him and have the same thing as him. Yukimitsu was okay with him, being as friendly as he wanted with Narumi and his other friends, but she just wanted him not to become someone else's just yet because she wanted to talk more with him. She started brainstorming ideas about this issue and figured something out. She went to Chobam and Engine and asked about Otakura's fetishes. Chobam and Engine were both in shock for a minute and couldn't believe what they heard. Engine said there was no way a class president type girl such as herself would say such a sensitive word like fetish, but Yukimitsu confirmed that she said it. She said she would like to ask what Otakura's fetishes were, and asked them to tell her about the girls and their favorite anime and games. The more she spoke, the more shocked they were. Engine whispered to Chobam that he didn't understand it, but she seemed to be a strange girl. So they thought she might plan to embarrass him in front of the whole class and reveal what his fetishes were. They even thought she might plan to grasp the weakness of Otakura and use that to blackmail him. No matter what her intention was, they weren't willing to sell out their friend for sure. They responded that they didn't know anything about it, and even if she asked them what it was, they would have no clue. Yukimitsu put on an intimidating face and asked if they were trying to hide him from her. She grabbed Chobam's shirt and said there was no way they didn't know and asked what they got out of hiding it. Both her eyes and her words were scary, so they surrendered quickly. Chobam said she could see his folder on the computer there while Engine looked at him in disbelief. Chobam explained that on this computer, they each have made their own collections of many Momo images that they had found themselves. Yukimitsu looked at the photos and noticed there were lots of girls with pink hair. Now that she had noticed it, they also realized that Otakura was fond of pink-haired girls. They asked if she knew the Sunday morning anime miracle Kururun. Apparently Otakura watches that and cheers on the pink run. She asked if there was anything else, and Chobam said he had seen him bringing around a gal. But Yukimitsu yelled at him that she already knew that. Enjin tried to calm her by mentioning that he was doing lots of research about this thing called Jirai K and makeup before summer break. He showed her on the computer. They said he was gathering images, so he must have an interest. She saved the images to the cloud at high speeds and mentioned with a trembling voice that whenever she saw him with girls around him, she always wished them to die. But she said she would like to take back those thoughts. In the next scene, it was the end of the summer break, and a new semester started. Otakura greeted the class, but there was no one in there yet. Being assigned the day duty right after the break was so unlucky. He decided to write whatever he could in the logbook. The door opened and a girl's voice greeted him. He did recognize the voice, but when he turned and looked, he saw a whole different person. Yukimitsu dyed her hair pink and changed her whole style and looked like Otakura's favorite anime girl. She asked if something was wrong, as if she didn't know why his face looked like that. Otakura tried to be calm and said he would ask just in case. He asked if she was the class president and if she had changed her hairstyle. She seemed happy that he noticed it and said she went all out with an image change. When he said it looked good on her, her face started shining from happiness. She asked where the best part of her appearance was. Otakura said the whole coordination as well as the color palette she had and the winter. However, the more he talked, the more it looked like he was just observing her like a doll. He asked if this was her actual hair and she said yes. She said it took her over an hour to do it, but because he had noticed it, it was worth doing her best. Otakura had an idea, and he asked if she was interested in nails while trying to find something in his bag. She realized that she didn't think of doing that. He took out some press-on nails and asked if she would like to try them. Yua once told him that she was interested in Jirai K makeup up, so he tried making them, but they were too choony and she didn't like them. He helped her put on the nails while she watched him. When he was done, he asked her thoughts on the nails. She said she was so happy and thanked him. Suddenly, Yua and Kennen came and Yua was shocked. She asked if they were holding hands and what was going on. She didn't even recognize Yukimitsu. Otakura greeted Yua and dodged her question, but she didn't let him do that. Kennen explained that the reason she was early today was that he was on duty. They thought if they left their homes early, they could ask him to do her hair and makeup. They then recognized that the pink-haired girl was the class president. Yua said it was so nice and complimented her. Otakura decided to leave diary duty later and called Yua to help her with her hair. As they talked about hairstyles, Yukimitsu watched them with little to no emotion on her face, and Kennen noticed that. She realized that there was a love triangle in the class. This was the appearance of a rival. In the next scene, Shuka High School's cultural festival had begun, though it was still a little warm with the autumn sun. The festival was open to the public for 2 days in a row this year. On the first day, the school was very busy with people. There were lots of events, such as the chemistry experiment show and the tea ceremony club. And Chobam was announcing that the second literature club's research exhibition was on literature on the internet long ago. While various volunteers were holding the events, Class 1, E's end of the Edo period cafe was very successful. Yukimitsu informed Otakura that the line for lending out the costumes was getting longer. She suggested increasing the number of available costumes by lending out some of the staff's costumes. He said it was alright because they had already cooked something up. When he was done with the makeup, he sent the girl off. A student named Kanda was announced as Class E's poster girl. Anyone could line up for a purchase of their sweets. Just as they thought, the lines were splitting up. Out of nowhere, 2 little girls showed up and wanted to take a picture with Yua because she was so beautiful. Yua happily accepted and they posed in front of the camera. After the little girls, other people joined and suddenly there was a queue in front of her. She was shocked at first, but then had to take a photo with everyone. When she was done, she went to the staff area and took off her clothes because she got so hot. Otakura thanked her for gathering all the customers. He said it was thanks to her that all the manju for today had been sold out. She was happy that it worked out and said he had a hard time in the back as well. The preparations were hard to deal with, but he didn't have much else to do today and tomorrow. So he had swapped shifts with someone, which meant he was free after this. The moment she heard that, she opened the curtain and asked him to go to the cultural festival together. That sounded like a good idea, and he said he was thinking about going to Riko's class, seeing the Manga Research Club's exhibit. He asked if she wasn't tired, and she said she was already feeling better. After she changed, they went to Riko's class as they had decided, but they were quite puzzled because it didn't look like an appealing exhibit. Riko welcomed them to the world of the deep sea. The other girls said they, the jellyfish girls, would explain the ecology of jellyfish. Riko was so cute that they couldn't help but scream at how cute she was. Riko yelled at her and said this was why she didn't want Yua to know when she was on shift. Unfortunately, she had already seen her outfit, so it was too late. The others asked Riko what she was fussing about, but then they noticed Otakura and Yua, so they figured it out. There weren't so many customers, so the girls asked Riko to take a break right now, but she didn't want to. They said they were fine with it and it wouldn't make much of a difference if one person left. They told her to go have a look around the cultural festival with Otakura and Yua. This suggestion sounded good, so she couldn't say no. She wanted to go get a change, but Yua told her to stay in that costume since she was already wearing something cute. As if she wasn't the one who was teasing her earlier. Yua said she was serious and asked Otakura if he also thought Riko's costume was super cute. He looked at her and said, using the see-through effect of the tulle fabric and making them look like a jellyfish with plastic strings, which made her look pretty cute. Riko's face was so red that she looked more like a boiled octopus than a jellyfish now. When she calmed down, they started walking. She asked where they were going and he said to the Manga Research Club. Inside the class, there were manga recommendations from members and lots of good drawings. Yua noticed that there was a character called Otaku in this 4-panel manga. As she started reading it out loud, the customers of the Manga Research Club, with lots of knowledge about memes, seemed embarrassed. She wondered if grabbing his hand counts as kind, and suddenly she grabbed his arm and asked if he enjoyed it when someone does this to him. Otakura was nervous to answer and Riko being involvement did not help. Everyone was shocked. The members of the club lined up recommendations for them, but they wondered which one Otakura would recommend. While Yua and Riko were glaring at each other, Otakura tried to keep calm as he felt a lot of people gazing at him. Otakura gained all the attention as he arguably became more of a show than the exhibit. In the next scene, Yua was having her own battle. She resists the urge to eat delicious food because she used way too much of her allowance this month. She knew she couldn't spend everything and she already had this thing in her hands. Plus, they had the class get together tonight and she was going to eat lots there. It was the second day of the festival. After finishing class duties for the day, the three, Otakura, Yua, and Riko, were moving as a trio. However, all the food stalls were really busy, and it was about time for the lunch rush. Riko said if they keep lining up at one store after another, they might be here for a long time. Yua suggested that after they buy what they wanted, they all gather at the food booth in front of the main corridor. It sounded good, so they split for a second and would send a text when they were done. And with that being said, the three were proceeding with their independent activities. Riko texted the group chat that a table opened up and they were sitting down. Yua started looking for them, and Otakura called for her. When she looked at the table, she saw the class president sitting right next to Otakura. Only Otakura was happy at the table and had no idea what was happening. Yua wondered when the class prez got included in this table. Before she asked, Otakura explained that he had met up with her earlier when he was shopping, and they both decided to have lunch at the same time. The class president said she hoped Yua didn't mind her joining them. When she answered weirdly, Riko hit her and said it was her line. She whispered to Yua that she didn't know much about this person, so she was as confused as she was. Yua explained to her that she was their class president, and she had seen her talking with Otakura a few times. Yua had noticed that her nails were the ones Otakura originally made for her. Yua wondered what they thought about each other. They decided to put that aside and eat before their food gets cold. Curious, Otakura asked if the thing Yua bought would be enough. She said it would probably be fine. While eating her takoyaki, the class president said she didn't know Yua had such a small appetite. Riko stated that she probably bought too many clothes, so she was low on cash this month. Yua was shocked but also couldn't deny her. Riko offered some of her yakisoba, but she felt guilty. Then everyone else offered their food too. She had to refuse them because she didn't have any chopsticks. But she opened her mouth for Otakura to feed her if he was telling her to have some. Before Otakura could feed her, the class prez put the hot yakisoba in her mouth. Otakura was a bit slow, so he thought they were friendly, but there was a whole war going on in there. He decided not to disturb them and asked Riko how the light novel he lent her the other day was. She said it was pretty good and emotional when the father died to protect his son. She was moved by that. The class prez made that scary face again and asked Riko if she could talk to her for a second. Riko obviously freaked out by her. She asked if she often talked with Otakura about stuff like that. She was weirded out by this question, but she still answered, saying that she does little. She wanted to inquire about what she was talking about earlier in great detail, but she was just scared, and she asked why she was leaning so close. Yua thought this was her chance now and tapped on his shoulder. When he looked at her, she opened her mouth and pointed. Otakura figured that she wanted some curry and started feeding her. Time passed quickly, and before anyone noticed, it was evening. The end of the cultural festival was closing in. Since the class prez had the cafe's accounting to do, she took her leave. In the end, they ended up joining the literature club. He opened the door and greeted Chobam and Engine. While they chatted, the girls looked around. Otakura apologized for leaving the whole exhibition to them. They said it was completely fine because they didn't have to help out with their classes and played video games when no one else was around. Otakura brought some tea and traditional sweets from their class as a thank you. While they ate their sweets, they noticed Yua and Riko. Yua asked if they didn't want to look around at the cultural festival. They said they were swellers of the shadows, and instead of going around cheerfully like that, they preferred having fun in a space like this much more. Yua understood them and said that if they wanted to enjoy the festival with them, they could just let them know. Suddenly, it was announced that it was nearly time for the festival to end, and everyone was asked to be careful where they stepped and make their way safely back home. They could start to hear all the classes finishing up in the corridor. Yua had an idea and suggested doing that thing where everyone makes a circle and brings their hands together in the middle. Everyone seemed fine with it. So they left the action to Otakura. Otakura gathered everyone and said this was the first cultural festival they had experienced and thanked them. And with that, they raised their hands for their hard work. In the next scene, Otakura, Yua, and Riko left the club as they were about to head for the after-party. They went back to the classroom and could hear some music playing outside. The student council seemed to be having an after-hours festival and had fireworks too. Yua asked where their after-party was and noticed that she had a missed call from her mother. She apologized to them and went to a private place to talk with her mother. Otakura turned to Riko and noticed that something was bothering her. She was actually thinking about the class president and their relationship. She started fidgeting, so Otakura thought she wanted him to pat her head. Otakura patted her head and said he was very proud of how hard she worked for these 2 days. Riko did not expect him to do something like that at all. She was so embarrassed that she started dragging him. When they went to a safer place, she told him not to do that in front of other people because they could never know who would be wandering the halls. He said he just thought she wanted to be petted. She asked if he petted Yua's head as well. Otakura thought about it and said he does it once in a while. He said even if someone like him pets her, he didn't know whether she would enjoy it or not. Riko was shocked and asked him to lean down a bit. When he did, she hugged him. She said it was payback and thanked him for doing stuff for her and Yua. She was being thankful so that he could have some respect for himself. She asked if he had ever had his head pet by you, and he said not. She then asked if he had disliked being pet by her or if it made him happy. He said it made him happy. Riko started leaning towards his face when he said that, but stopped when they heard a loud voice. Before Riko ran away, she told him to tell her if he wanted her to pet his head again. When she left, Otakura had finally realized that he had been doing something crazy to them. Yua called her mother back, but she didn't pick up. Otakura and other friends came back and told Otakura to grab his stuff and hurry. They went to a good karaoke place. Otakura noticed that they were missing some people because there were only around 10 people here. Yua told him to listen and said the people who didn't come said they were busy, but some of them went out alone as lovers. Otakura was shocked that there were people in this class who had lovers. They didn't notice it because they weren't interested in it. In other words, everyone who was here was single. Kanon said she might find someone to date here. Shion and Kanon were both ready to find one, and their target was apparently the same. They both sat next to Otakura and asked what he thought of them. They started complimenting his body and good taste in fashion. Yua got angry and told the girls to stop teasing him. She dragged him out of them and got away from those sisters. She was acting exactly as those sisters planned. Otakura was relieved that he had been saved, but then the class president sat right next to him. And just like that, the fun times flew by and the next day was a day off, so everyone got lots of rest. The following day, they started to clean up the cultural festival and spent a whole day cleaning the entire school. And in the afternoon, Yua came and showed him an outfit she wanted to wear. He said it would look good on her, but it was different from what she normally wore. She said she knew how she always wore clothes that show her skin, so she thought everyone might think her clothes were too revealing. He said that wasn't true, and he was surprised by the outfits she wears, but they always look good on her. She seemed to change her mind and said she might buy more of the clothes she normally wears. Otakura noticed that her nails were coming off a little bit. The coating was peeling off. She was trying to keep them pristine, but she might have scraped them in a few places, but she liked them and used them as much as she could. So he offered to make her another set with the same design. She thanked him and suggested using the nail tips she had at home that she wasn't using. He said that he would help and wanted to drop by her house to pick them up. They talked about lots of things while walking out of the school building, and suddenly, Yua held Otakura's hand. He was surprised at first, but then she started running with him, so he said there was no need to hurry that much. Meanwhile, Yua's mother was still calling her. She wondered why she wasn't home yet, and she wanted to talk to her about something. It was late October, and Otakura went to the courtyard to ask something to Yua. He wanted to confirm that her birthday was this Sunday. She was so happy that he remembered it and asked if he was going to give her something. Excited, Otakura asked to go on a date with him on that day. Yua obviously didn't expect him to ask this straight. She started sweating and trembling in just a second from the shock he gave her. Otakura panicked too after seeing her face becoming pale, and she started sweating, so he thought it was too much to ask. She told him that her consciousness had flown away for a second and wanted him to repeat what he had just asked. Otakura said he wanted to pick out her birthday present, and that's why he wanted her to go on a date on Sunday. Without thinking, Yua agreed to go out with him. Otakura seemed surprised and asked if it was okay. She said it was, and she was free on Sunday. After saying that he would contact her later about when and where they should meet, Otakura left. Kanon and Murata were equally shocked. They found it so funny how Yua forgot to talk when Otakura asked her out. But that aside, seeing him propose a date made them wonder if he got advice from someone. They were right to wonder that. The reason why Otakura asked for a date goes back 15 minutes ago. Otakura went to Riko's class but couldn't see her because the seats were all over the place. The students who noticed his clueless face informed Riko that he might be looking for her, so Riko raised her hand and called his name. They went outside and Riko asked if he needed something. Embarrassed, Otakura said he wanted to talk to her about something. Riko's classmates thought he was going to confess his love for her, but Otakura asked what he should buy Yua for her birthday present. They were shocked that he had the nerve to ask something like that of her. He knew how they felt, but he thought Riko would be able to think of something he couldn't, so he wanted to ask for some advice. Riko told him to invite her on a date and ask her if she wanted anything. Otakura gave the exact reaction as Yua when he asked her out. Riko couldn't understand why he was so surprised because they had hung out around the city alone plenty of times before. He said that was just following her around while shopping and stuff, and going on a date was a completely different story. The girl told him that he didn't need to think about it that hard, even though she was sure that Narumi would be considerate if she had given something she didn't want. Going to choose something with her would be better, was what Riko wanted to say. The other friend said there was an important point to make clear first. She asked if Yua had a boyfriend. Otakura didn't even have any doubts in his mind, so there shouldn't be a problem. They were sure that she wouldn't hate it if a male friend she trusted asked her if she would like to choose a birthday present. Riko told him to hurry up because the lunch break was about to end. Thus, Otakura and Yua's date was decided with this tale. With the details already decided upon, all that was left was for the day to arrive. However, the night before the promised day, they were both very nervous. Otakura blurted out about going on a date with her the other day, but he was still unsure if someone like him was even allowed to go on a date with Yua. Meanwhile, Yua was freaking out about the fact that they were going on a date. They had so many questions in their minds that they both ended up writing Riko. Somehow they spent the night and the morning came. Finally, the day of the date arrived. Otakura ended up coming 1 hour early to their date. His preparations for today were the clothes that Yua and Riko chose, cologne that he got from Yua, and the shoes he got from Riko. He decided to send her a text but then decided not to because it was too early. But Yua arrived on the date early too. He reminded her that they had an hour until their meetup time, even though he wasn't one to talk. She said she was worried about the train being late, so she left the house early. She accidentally said it was because of their first date, but then corrected herself that it was because of her birthday. Otakura realized that he was taking her on a birthday date, so he needed to lead it properly. He asked if she had already eaten breakfast. They both didn't have any breakfast, so Otakura asked if she would like to eat at a cafe. If he recalled correctly, there was a nice cafe nearby, so they started walking. Meanwhile, Riko, disguised as a child passing by and had been watching them. She was acting like she didn't care about what kind of date they were having, and she was only there to find something to tease them with. However, the Murata sisters were also there, and they saw Riko. They figured she was following them too, and apparently there was no way they would miss their date. They went inside a cafe, so the girls decided to follow them in. In the last chapter, Otaku had a discussion with Riko about what he should do for Yua's birthday present, and she suggested going on a date with her. The two met up early in the morning. However, Riko pursued the couple while disguised. And even further behind her, we have the Murata sisters with everything descending into chaos. Otakura and Yua ate their dinner, and the waitress took their plates. Meanwhile, at the other tables, the Murata sisters and Riko were watching them. They noticed Yua and Otakura weren't talking and seemed pretty nervous. Yua couldn't help but ask why he suddenly decided to invite her on a date, because she thought no one would invite someone on a date if they had a normal amount of affection for them. She started wondering if Otakura was about to confess to her today. Unfortunately, Otakura revealed that Riko told him to invite her on a date and ask her directly. He thought there was nothing wrong with explaining that, but Yua was a bit disappointed. And Otakura didn't stop there. He mentioned how he was told that inviting a girl who didn't have a boyfriend on a date to choose a birthday present was normal from Riko's friends. The girls couldn't believe he was telling them everything truthfully. Yua said she understood him, but that just complicated everything. She was really thankful that he invited her on a date, but if Riko and her friends hadn't given him any advice, that could mean he wouldn't have invited her. That was not the situation she expected. Otakura noticed something was off and asked if it was a problem for him to ask her on a date. Yua immediately corrected him that this would never bother her because she liked him. Her sudden confession made everyone spill their drinks. The waitress was confused as to why there were so many people coughing and why it was all at the same time. Before Otakura could say something, Yua said she was talking about how she was wondering if he had someone he liked. It seemed like he believed her. He said he didn't think he had anyone he liked right now. Yua asked about Riko because she was small and cute. Otakura, not knowing Riko was right behind him, said Riko was cute but she would never take someone like him seriously. Riko couldn't help but choke again, which concerned the waitress more. She couldn't believe Otakura was calling her cute. Meanwhile, the Murata sisters were furious because Otakura didn't seem to realize that he was on a date with Yua, and he was throwing another girl's name into the story. Also, Yua's interrupting her own confession was weird too. Yua was relieved that he didn't like anyone but then realized that she wasn't running either. Otakura noticed that Yua seemed a little bit strange today and thought she might have someone she liked, and that could be why she started talking about that topic. He thought about digging deeper and asking her who that was, but he was scared to ask. However, he didn't really understand why he was scared. He finished his whole coffee and decided that there was no point in thinking about that. He decided to focus on the date and asked Yua to go browse some clothes. As they were preparing to leave the restaurant, the girls tried to hide themselves. They left the restaurant and went to a shopping center. Yua tried on a knitted dress with bows on it and it looked great on her. He asked if she would like to buy that, but she wanted to look around a bit more. Whatever she tried on or liked, Otakura kept asking if she wanted to buy it, and she kept explaining that she wanted to check it out. Riko noticed that Yua was quite indecisive today, even though she usually buys almost everything she picks up. She was definitely trying to stretch out the date, since if she chose what she wanted, the date would be over. No matter where they went or what Otakura suggested, Yua found an excuse not to buy them. It was taking so long that the girls were getting bored with following them. They checked every store in the mall but couldn't find anything for a present. Yua apologized to Otakura for that, but he said he had fun today. The Murata sisters thought the date was going to end with no progress in their relationship. Otakura asked Yua what kind of present Riko gave her this year. She said she gave her some earrings, the ones she had on right now. Otakura said they were cute and wanted to get a better look at them. He approached her and touched her ears, so that it was finally getting excited for the girls. Riko couldn't believe he was using her present as an excuse to act all lovey-dovey. Suddenly, Otakura asked Yua to close her eyes for a second. She closed her eyes and girls were absolutely sure he was going to kiss her because his hands were around her neck. However, when he told her to open her eyes, she realized that there was a necklace around her. He wished her a happy birthday. Yua, while trembling and sweating, thanked him. She checked with her phone camera and noticed it was a heart necklace. She asked when he bought this, and he said it would be a good pick while shopping earlier, and he said the stone on the top was called a pink tourmaline. Yua loved his present and expressed how happy she was. Otakura seemed proud of himself. Riko decided that it was stupid to follow them in an outfit like this and decided to go home. Murata sisters joined her and said it was tiring to follow them around. Riko was shocked because she had no idea they were here. Meanwhile, Yua was playing with her necklace while humming a song. Otakura was glad she liked it, but she was constantly playing with it, so he was worried. She said she hadn't seen enough of it yet, but he told her that she might trip and fall. Yua looked at him annoyed and then grabbed his arm, saying she would be safe now. Otakura said it can't be helped since it was her birthday today. A pink tourmaline stone was October's birthstone. It was said to grant a wish when you hear it. Otakura thought Yua had someone she liked. This stone would allow her to become closer to that person. Thar was his sincere wish. At the end of October, Halloween decorations fill the town, and depending on the occasion, adults dress up and hand out treats to children participating in such events. The suburb that Yua's family lived in didn't seem to be an exception, and Yua's mother asked Yua to participate in the neighborhood association's Halloween event instead of her and Yua's father. Yua was surprised and said this was kind of short notice. She said it wasn't short notice because she had asked her about this the other day as well. She told her that there was a high chance she would ask her, and told her to keep her schedule open, but she didn't pick up her phone at all. Her father explained that their work probably wouldn't let them go until late that weekend. Since Yua's parents couldn't participate in many neighborhood association events, they tried to at least participate in the seasonal events. She said she still didn't care, but when her mother gave her some cash, she immediately agreed to do it. They were glad she was easy, but her father was worried about having her walk around alone at night. Yua was scared that they would take their offer back. To convince them, she said she would invite Otakura, and they wouldn't have a problem. Her mother seemed relieved and said she wouldn't be worried if he were there. Her father was confused as to why she was calling her friends otaku. Her mother explained that she knew a reliable boy named Otakura, and Yua had been in his care for a while. She said he was seriously a god at everything she asked him to do. Her mother said she would call his house and ask them, but Yua insisted that she would call him because having her ask was embarrassing. Meanwhile, her father was still thinking about her male friend. The next day after school, Yua thanked Otakura and Riko for participating in her suburb's Halloween event. And this seemed to be the witch outfit she was going to be wearing on that day, but it looked quite dull. Otakura said it may be a witch cosplay without many other features, but this seemed right since they were giving out treats to kids. Riko said what she wanted to say was that it was inappropriate compared to how much skin she normally showed. While Yua was annoyed, Riko asked Otakura what he would dress up as. He said he was going to dress up as a mummy. Yua wished she could have dressed up as a mummy, wrapping her whole body up in bandages, which sounded fun. Otakura explained that for occasions like this, she wears clothes and wraps up the places where you could see skin. She had no idea. They then asked Riko what she was going to dress up as, and she said a vampire. If she had Otakura modify the clothes she already has, it shouldn't be a problem for her. Yua forgot about that option and wanted to join. He said if it was just modifying a bit, he should be able to do it. He had to make sure he didn't interfere with Yua's parents' intentions. Now that it was decided, Yua wanted to go buy the materials and costumes. Since they didn't have many days until Halloween, they needed to hurry, and she had some money they could use for all of them. And now, it was the night of Halloween, and they were at the Narumi house. Otakura was waiting for Yua to put on the costume. She couldn't believe this was that dull outfit from before because it looked so cute. She wanted to take the tights and the cape off, but Otakura told her that her cape and tights must stay on. And if she took those off, she would be a bitch instead of a witch. Otakura then asked Riko how Hem was, and she said he was fine. She then asked for something, and he said he had it right here. Curious, Yua asked what they were talking about. Otakura took out platform boots for her, and she was shocked because she could see so much higher now. Otakura's mother had bought them a long time ago, and he found them in the closet. He whispered to Yua's ear that since they were going out at night, they needed to be sure that Riko wasn't mistaken for a child. But they worried if she would be okay because she looked like she was about to trip over her own feet. She told them not to worry, and that she would get used to it right away. But before she could get used to it, she asked for their shoulders for a little bit. She looked like a little fawn dressed up as a vampire. They went to the place where they were in charge and saw the people handing out treats, but the kids didn't seem so happy. It seemed that the adult was very satisfied though. Otakura said he could imagine the reason. He assumed the treats might be too small. The department sweets were always cute though, so Riko said they might not look too appealing. Yua then suggested putting the sweets in a bundle like the one she was holding. The kids looked pretty excited and couldn't believe they were allowed to have this. The kids were so happy and got in line to pick their candies. A little girl approached Riko and thanked her for all the treats. Riko was so shocked and happy that she was being treated like a big sister instead of a kid. After handing out enough candies for the kids, the others informed them that they could head off for the night and thanked Yua for her hard work. They were glad that the kids enjoyed their work. It was also thanks to Otakura for suggesting those old sweets. But since the kids enjoyed it so much, she said her parents might ask him to participate again next year. He would be completely okay with that. Meanwhile, Riko was still thinking about that girl who called her big sister. She realized how nice being tall was and felt like she could do anything with this height. And if she stood on that curb there, she wondered if she would be eye level with Otakura. She wanted to test it out and called for Otakura. But when he turned, Riko lost her balance and fell on him. Panicked, Yua asked if they were okay and scolded Riko for getting ahead of herself. They quickly got up and said they were fine, but Riko realized that she sprained her ankle. Yua asked if she would be able to make it back home. She suggested trading shoes with her for the time being, but then noticed the sizes wouldn't fit. Otakura was willing to carry her and said it would be easy peasy if he thought of it as training. Riko had to take him up on that offer. Yua was impressed by her honesty. While Otakura was carrying Riko, Yua noticed that they both seemed a bit red, so she told them to take it easy. But the reason they were red was because they both noticed that when she fell on him, Riko's lips touched Otakura's cheek. That is the end of the recap at chapter 23. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.